Hello and welcome to Deadline Day Live with Harvard's Chat. We've got a 2-hour show. It's usually about 2 hours and 15 minutes. We'll always say we'll finish at 11 o'clock, but we never do. We've got a few guests lined up for you this evening as well throughout the 2 hours, so you won't be stuck with just myself and Gonzo. We'll be interacting plenty with the live chat, so keep getting your opinions in, any questions or topics as well, and we'll rattle through as many as possible. But anyway, Gonzo, how you doing?
Oh, bad news, mate. Honestly, I got down here with my nice cup of tea. I thought it was a nice cup of tea. No sugars in it. Schoolboy error. Terrible, really.
Made it taste better then.
No, it doesn't. It's definitely worse. But yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you? All excited about the imminent signings?
Do you know something? I'm excited about no signings.
Does that business done early? Yeah.
Like normally we go into deadline day a bit panicked. I go into deadline day usually a bit panicked, thinking, right, we need X, Y, Z, and we're not going to get them, but hopefully we can get at least one of them. And usually we don't. But normally we go into deadline day feeling a little bit like there's a lot to do. I would have liked one signing. I do think we're maybe a little bit light in one area in particular, but we'll get on to that. But it's felt different coming into today without sort of constantly checking for updates throughout every 10 minutes. Are we signing him? Are we signing him? Are we signing him? Because we've done the bulk of the transfers, and it's refreshing and nice, I think.
Yeah, it is. I definitely felt the same way today. Actually, there was no desperation. If Ashby had gone, we would have got in another right back. It felt that was the way. We were only going to do the Dawson deal if it suited us. I'm sure we'll discuss that in some more detail as the night progresses. But the big deals have been done. It was really only, it was always going to be. I think we got to this stage, one in, one out. And the squad looks good because it looks good when you're looking at the bench. When we're doing our we obviously pre-recorded our Chelsea preview, and when we were discussing the team, we had plenty of choices, and whatever was left on the bench was going to be plenty for Moyes to work with. So I mean, it takes the pressure off, and you can see there's desperation business happening right now. So yeah, I'm pleased to be out of it. But it would have been nice to have signed Mbappe, at sort of 5 minutes to 11 o'clock, but it seems that won't happen.
Was there a position in particular you were hoping we'd bring in today, or are you pretty relaxed about the whole thing?
Well, I was relaxed. I would have liked another central midfielder.
Yeah, that's the position I feel we could have done with something not just additional, but something a bit different to what we've already got. I think just someone slightly different to Downs, slightly different to Rice, and slightly different to Souček, because I feel like we're one injury to someone in there just sort of being a bit light all of a sudden. And I know Paqueta can play there, Fornals could play there, Lanzini will be playing there as well. But I don't want to be in a situation where Paqueta's in form further up the pitch and we've had to drag him back in because we've got an injury or something. And I know I'm being a bit picky. We've spent 180 million and stuff like that. I just wouldn't have minded a centre midfielder, that's all.
And I think David Moyes knows that. And I think what he's done now is he's got to the point where his mantra has been, I don't want to bring players in for the sake of it. Now, I understand that probably sounds a little bit silly, bearing in mind we've just brought a load of players in, but I don't feel, possibly with the exception of Downs, that there was anybody there that he didn't really want. And I definitely know he's after one of those midfielders because we went in big for an on, and there's no way that that you would consider Paqueta and Onana to be the same players. If Moyes had his way, his ideal dream team contains both of those players. But he's probably thought, right, okay, I've stretched the 180 million as much as I wanted to stretch it. And I'm glad he did. I mean, he could have, as I understand it, Nottingham Forest are about to sign their 20th player if they sign Batshuayi from Chelsea on loan. I think they might have spent about 140 million or something. I mean, you can. If Nottingham Forest can make 140 million stretched to 20 players, I guess you could make 180 million stretched to 20 players. Well, David Moyes doesn't want to do it. And I think at some point he said, you know what? That's done. He probably knows he still needs to go and spend big on a central midfielder, on an athletic, competitive one. He probably knows he needs to go and spend big on a fullback as well. And I think he's probably just thinking, you know what? I'll do that next season out of next season's budget. And I guess that's, you're afforded that luxury where when you're quite comfortable at a club and you've got a long-term strategy and you feel quite comfortable in your job.
Yeah, anyway, let's bring in our first guest. I say guest, it's not really a guest, is it? How do we describe him?
Furniture.
Here's the furniture. Charlie, how you doing?
Yeah, solid, reliable.
Oak-like.
Oak, yes. DFS available. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm happy. I really
definitely like DFS. You take 8 weeks to turn up.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, no,
Don't disappear and varnish on us, Charlie.
Listen, I'm available on sale. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, no, I'm really happy about this window. I'm really, really happy about it. I can't complain too much, if I'm being honest. I thought we've basically gone into this window with a lot to do, more than I thought we were capable of doing. People will know if they watch Two Spanners, One Ham and Ham's Chat Patreon exclusive podcast made just for you. Link in the description below to Patreon. Stuff like that. I'll talk about it a lot, how I didn't think we had next to any money. I thought we would probably be looking at a net spend of around 50 to 60 million. And in fact, we've just gone out there and gone, actually, no, we've seen this opportunity for once. We've seen the opportunity to actually make something and we've taken it, which is rare. So I'm really, really happy with this window.
Is there any sign in particular, Charlie, that has impressed you? I know not in regards into what he's done in the West Ham shirt, because they've not been here long enough, but what is there one or two in particular we've signed? Hello, this is good.
I mean, outside of Paqueta, I think is the obvious one to some extent. Outside of him, I mean, you're looking.
Wait! Expand on that. I will say this. Charlie knows a bit about Paqueta. He's actually watched him prior to West Ham being linked to him. So I'm putting you on a bit of a pedestal. But
I really flipping like him, Gio. He's so good. I remember. So I'd heard about his name. I'll give you the story. I heard his name spoken, whispers of this kid in Brazil, right? You know, you always hear about it. You're reading websites, you've seen people Twitter going, oh, there's this young kid in Brazil turning up. And just before he'd signed for AC Milan, I'd started to hear his name and I was like, okay, whatever. You file it under something to think about another time. Lazaro, for example, just maybe he'll come back, maybe not. He turns up at AC Milan and I kept seeing, oh, he's not doing so well. And I watched him and I can't remember what game it was. There were 2 games in specific. I watched him from Milan and I was like, bloody hell, there's so much talent here. And it was a bit like Ben Rama, where you go, there's talent there, but it's not quite working out for him in the long term. Clearly, the AC Milan fans weren't super enamored. The club wasn't super enamored. And then he moved to Lyon, and it's like, oh, wait, no, he really is just that good. He has everything. He has the touch, he has the skill, he has shooting, he has passing, he has vision, he has work rate. We saw that in the game last night. He was running about the pitch trying to make things happen. It wasn't a player who, sometimes you see these skillful players, they wait for the ball to come to their feet and then they do a flick or a trick. No. He's gonna find it. He's gonna find you if you have the ball, and he's gonna find the ball. He works for it. And we've paid a lot for him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and act like we've got this beautiful deal. It's not Dimitri Payet for 10 million. Do you know what I mean? We have paid a lot for him, but we've paid what he's worth. And if he comes good, then he's going to be worth even more than that. I'm so excited about it. That's the cherry on top of the cake for me. Because I like a lot of our signings. I think a lot of them make sense. We've got a striker. We've got wingers that we needed. We've signed a goalkeeper. We've signed centre-backs we needed. But he was the one that's taken this window from a really good window to an incredible window. He's the one who takes this squad, this team, from being a group of really good, hardworking players with talent here, there, and everywhere to, oh, this is a side who could go on and do something. The final piece of the puzzle. And I'm really excited. I didn't want to say it because I feel like it's too obvious, but I'm just so excited that we've actually managed to sign him, because I'll be honest, I thought it was incredibly unrealistic when we were first linked to him.
Anyway, and for those that aren't aware or have just joined late, Craig Dawson has not left West Ham United and is extremely unlikely to leave West Ham United. He was set to join Wolves in a £5 million deal. However, David Moyes suddenly didn't really fancy Jan Benderek all of a sudden and pulled the plug on that and stopped Craig Dawson leaving West Ham United to join Wolves. Charlie, what do you make of that lack of departure?
I'm very happy. I love that, man. I remember 2 years ago, Gio, when we signed him, we were on this show and I backed it and everyone was like, and I remember the comments going, that's an awful signing. Why the hell would we sign Craig Dawson? We didn't really properly announce it. There was talks about maybe West Ham were too embarrassed to even announce it. And I was like, do you know what? And even I, who backed it, did not think we were going to get anything close to what we've got out of Craig Dawson. And I said this in the Patreon group chat earlier. I don't think we truly embraced him until he put his laces straight through Che Adams' head, which was the moment I think we all went, actually, no, here's a West Ham defender. Here he is. But I'm really happy because there's someone there who you can rely upon no matter what. And I know today there's been a conversation about whether or not he'll be disgruntled or not because he hasn't got his move and he wanted to move back up north. I think the one thing I can reliably say about Craig Dawson is I don't think you'll see that in his performances. The fact he gives 110% every game, I don't think we'll get even close to that. He might end up leaving in January. He might end up leaving next summer. I don't think that matters for free. I don't think that matters because between now and then, we've got a centre-back who will give literally every single inch of what he can, no matter the opposition. And that's a really important thing.
Anyway, Charlie, we'll catch up with you later in the show. But before you disappear, can you introduce our first guest of the evening, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking for knowledge, right? You're not looking at any of us because we got none of it. Okay, we're about to talk to one of the main people behind Analyst United. Okay. Me and Gonzo. Gio has some knowledge. Do you know what I mean?
No. I'm like a Danny Ings expert. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm clinging to my Danny Ings call.
That's fair. What I'm doing here is I'm just sowing seeds of discontent, and then he'll come on, I'll go away, and then you lot have to deal with the fallout of this. It's going to be beautiful. One of the two people behind Analytics.
Text you in a minute, Charlie. You see me doing this. I'm having a go at Charlie via WhatsApp.
That's totally fair. One of the two people behind Analytics United and a co-host of the Patreon show Hammerlytics, which is, of course, our analytics, stats, performance-based show. Come check it out, patreon.com/hammerchat, link in the description below. It's Jack Elderton, ladies and gentlemen. See you later on.
Thank you very much, Charlie, and welcome to Jack. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good. Better now that I've watched Charlie mug you both off before I come on.
You're welcome to do so as well, Jack.
I won't.
As Charlie said, Jack is one half of Analytics United, a really good website that focuses on data and other 40 in the Premier League. Go check out. Jack has kindly, as well as Cal, been contributing to our Patreon over the last few weeks and just been absolutely excellent. Gonzo describes it as the best show on West Ham YouTube, which is pretty insulting considering I do one video every single flipping day on YouTube. Jack does half a video once a week and it's elevated higher. But anyway,
the quantity in it.
Yeah. Anyway, Jack, what are you thinking about the window overall? Give me all your thoughts. Any thoughts you've got? Any deal you want to talk about in particular? The floor is yours, essentially. Give me your thoughts.
Very happy. Think we've addressed a lot of key areas. Surprised by the amount we spent. But I think in the areas we've chosen to spend it, we've picked quite wisely in the right age groups. Protected ourselves with the lengths of contracts as well. Good saleability. I think the big thing, maybe the big question with those assets now is what the attitude towards them is. It has to be slightly different to previous instance where we've done this, where it's maybe been a little bit too club focused. It has to be also financially, how do we protect the asset at times? Obviously we hope it all works out and everyone's amazing and every transfer works out, but generally hit rate on transfers is pretty low. And I think we have to work out a better way of protecting the assets this time if that happens. But on paper, with everyone we've signed, I'm generally pretty confident. Even signings like Tilo Kehrer, which I didn't see coming at all, just make a lot of sense as a system signing, particularly when you look at the other bodies we've brought in terms of enabling someone like him as best as possible. Where he maybe hasn't hit his best form at PSG, I think he'll be better suited to playing alongside Naya Fagerd in a 3. You have someone who can cover a little bit better to compensate for how aggressive he is. So I just think a lot of it's been really sensible. Lucas Paqueta, a deal that I just never saw coming. Someone that's been on the top of every shortlist we've done with AU for a very long time now. And we just, every time you do a shortlist, you kind of write off the names on the top, like you do a number 10 shortlist and Lionel Messi comes out number 1 and you go, well, I think that one's unrealistic. And Lucas Paqueta would be sat there in the top 5 each time. And you just write his name off, saying generally, I think he's going to end up at Liverpool, and because he had all the right attributes to take that Naby Keita role and perform it to a higher level. So the fact that he's come is a bit weird and impressive that the club has managed to pull it off, but really exciting because it's the right blend of player at the right age with the right ability to really elevate the level of the squad immediately, but also doesn't really require much adaptation in terms of tactics. He comes straight into the way we play right now and also will be useful in the way that we seemingly want to play going forward. So really happy with everything so far.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. And you just said Paqueta doesn't require an adaptation of tactics for him to fit in. However, I didn't know Scamacca prior to arriving at West Ham. I can only go by what I've seen in the Claret and Blue, as well as literally a handful of games for Italy. And when I say a handful, he usually got subbed on or subbed off as well. So for a full 90 minutes, it wasn't very much there. So my data pool of him is minimal. Moyes has alluded to the fact he's a different type of striker to Michail Antonio, and that we're probably going to have to play a different way when Scamacca is in the team. Do you think that's the case as well? And if so, what kind of variation do you think we're going to see going forward with Scamacca compared to with Antonio?
I think Scamacca will better enable us to play against that sort of bottom 8 region of the Premier League, where we've not necessarily been as consistent as we've needed to be over the last couple of seasons. One of the things I think that's really clear is press resistance has been a key element of what the club has tried to bring in. Brighton have been far too good against us. Southampton have been far too good against us. Leeds have been far too good against us. Brentford have been far too good against us. So these teams that tend to press a little bit higher, there's been a clear focus on players who are going to be able to deal with that. Agard, Kera, even someone like Emerson. Scamacca will enable us to control possession a little bit better. So there's a clear group of players that will help ease that adaptation for him, because they'll all play to his strengths a little bit better. And then there'll need to be a level of adaptation from him as well, where he's been in a really good groove of the right-sided player coming to and the number 10 going beyond. It will probably now be at West Ham, the number 10 coming to and the right-sided player going beyond, which is just a different set of movements when you receive the ball. And I think you see that slight kind of I don't know what the word is, but he's not quite there yet, because you see him receiving the ball and immediately looking to pass right, and that Bowen's often going beyond. The option's not necessarily there. Finds himself passing back to Soufal, and that just puts us back into second phase build up. So not quite as smooth as you hope it will end up being. But hopefully that's not too difficult an adaptation to recognize, especially when Lucas Paqueta comes into the team, developing that relationship between the two of them, that Paqueta will be the one likely to come to the ball and look to play beyond. And actually a lot of the players he's going to want to find first or second time are going to be on the other side of the pitch now. It's going to be your Cresswells, Fornals on that left side of the pitch who are going to be able to punch balls through, rather than where it was Berardi for him at Sassuolo.
A lot of love for you in the live chat, Jack, because obviously a lot of people have seen you on Patreon, but not everybody's seen you on our YouTube channel yet, which is a shame. Go over to our Patreon, check out more of Jack. Gonzo, get thinking of a question. Gonzo knows nothing when it comes to stats and data, so you might get like a how do you phrase this? A simple question from Gonzo. Who's your favorite player?
A question about food, about pizza.
Oh no! Don't stop. Wait. We'll do the pizza debate in a second. But first, I like this comment from Edward. He said he bets Jack is mint at Football Manager. Can you confirm?
I've got a confession to make. I've not played very much Football Manager at all. I think I played a bit of FM18. I've bought the game every year since then, but I rarely ever play it because I tend to find myself sitting in Instat and watching real football, and just kind of playing around with data and shortlisting stuff. And you can do a lot of that in FM, but I tend not to be able to write a 5,000 word piece after sitting doing FM for a week, whereas I might get something out of it for the site if I sit and watch football clips. So yeah, not so much FM.
Gonzo, have you got a question for our young Jack here?
Yeah, Jack. So you've mentioned that there's no Football Manager for you. Any Minecraft, mate?
Long way back in the past, yeah.
yeah, excellent. Well, that's all for me. No, let's just go back to Kera, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Noticing him, he seems to be turning. Two things I noticed in the game yesterday. Firstly, Kera, I think it was the build-up for the Antonio chance, which resulted in him hitting the post. A lot of those balls, when players are in that position, they go back to goal. He seemed to have an instinct, a reaction to pass forward, move it up the field. There was another situation late on. Paqueta comes on, and again, I think there was an option where we might be used to him seeing playing a square pass or playing it back, played it forward straight away. Are you surprised to see that? Do you expect to see that? And is that going to be, do you think, a feature of our play, basically turning defence to attack very, very quickly?
I think, like I said about the pressing teams, you need that ability to deal with that. Where we have had press-resistant players in the team before, the only two players who have been able to respond with forward passes have been Pablo Fornals and Aaron Cresswell. We've got players in the squad who have a degree of press resistance in Angelo Ogbonna or Kurt Zuma, but generally their instinct is to go sideways to the fullbacks and shift that responsibility elsewhere. In Thilo Kehrer and Naya Fagerd, and again Lucas Paqueta, who can play as an 8. You've got players who are quite comfortable punching forwards with their passes rather than shifting that responsibility onwards. A lot of the problem with West Ham has been that you'll find when we're dealing with counter pressing, it's shifting the responsibility, and then the ball arrives at Souček or Soufal, and one of them has to punt the ball forward because they haven't got the competency or comfortability under that pressure. One of the things that we need to do is to enable those players better, have players around them who aren't going to put them in trouble so often and put them under that pressure so often. Thilo Kehrer won't do that. Agard won't do that. So yes, dealing with press is the key thing in terms of those players coming in and into the side. Secondarily, I think what we'll see a lot from West Ham this season is a move to a much more intense counter-pressing structure where our players actually are looking to win turnovers in the middle third much more effectively. And when you do win the ball in the middle third with someone like Kehrer, with someone like Paqueta, you'll find that someone like Bowen, who can often be quite isolated in games, will probably come into it a little bit more because of the amount of times he'll be found making runs in behind. The interesting thing here is about how you blend Scamacca into this, whether you go for a more possession dominant 4-3-3 heavy counter pressing approach against the bottom half of the league, where you push really high and play a high defensive line, and probably Areola has to come in as the goalkeeper in that system, or whether you see the kind of adaptation we see more against Spurs last night. Where
why?
Actually,
sorry, just rewind a little bit. Why Areola? Why does he come into that? Why is he more important for that?
If your defense goes higher, you can't have a keeper who sits on his line because it's going to create too big a gap. So you need a keeper who's going to have the confidence to be able to step out and support when someone like Kehrer gets exposed. And because Kehrer is not a premium version of this kind of defender, you know, I was quite keen for us to go out and look at Salisu. Kehrer's a couple of rungs down from that. Because he's not quite at that level, he will get played through once a match or once every other match, and you need a goalkeeper who's going to be able to respond to that if you're going to play a higher line. So we might see that, which will be a 4-3-3 intense counter-pressing approach where we look to counter very quickly but from higher up the pitch, where in the last few years we've been countering from very deep, winning the ball back, headers around the box, and then countering from our own goal line effectively. Or what we might see is a very, very similar style to what we played against Spurs, where you press very, very intensely in their first phase build-up. So your goalkeeper and centre-backs are going to come under a lot of pressure. As soon as you hit the midfield, we're going to drop back into that low block, defend quite deep, defend from crosses and stuff like that, encourage you to play wide. And then at that point, we'll break forwards. There's some weakness in that in second phase, but we're very, very lucky to have Declan Rice, who's probably one of the most talented, if not the most talented player in playing midfield on his own in second phase when the press is played through. So there's a really good blend here, really good blend of players to enable different systems. And I think the fact that we'll be able to take someone like Thomas Souček out for certain games that might not suit him will allow him to kind of shine more. Same with Soufal and rotation with Johnson. I think that will work quite well this season. Cresswell, Emerson, Kehrer and Zuma, or Kehrer and Ogbonna. There are really nice rotations for different opposition.
Well, that's fascinating. All very well and good, but would you put barbecue sauce on a pizza?
No, I wouldn't. No.
He knows his stuff, Gio. It's he knows he's got culinary expertise.
Correct.
There you go.
I just want to back that. Correct answer.
Get out.
And he knows his tactics. He's probably the counter press on the dough and the stretch and all the stuff. Love it.
Jack, have you got another 10 minutes by any chance?
Yeah.
On this spot, because I know I only asked you for 10 minutes. You've been on for 14. Right. If you're watching live, got any questions for Jack, get them in. Keep them sensible. Keep them about food. One of the two. We don't mind either or really. You can fire your questions at Jack and we'll see what he's got to say. If you want to hear more from him, he's on our podcast every single week, him or Cal, with Charlie doing Hammerlytics, which is taking a look at the data, the tactical side of the latest game. It's absolutely fantastic. Go to patreon.com/Hammers Chat and join up. And you can access this with our supporters tier, which is just £3.60 per month. Get involved. Links in description below and pinned at the top of the live chat. Balan Dawson, who's probably glad he doesn't have to change his username today, says, Jack, Do you think players do things to boost their stats? And can you provide any examples?
It depends what kind of stats we're looking at. So I think, yes, there's a focus on stat boosting when it comes to distance and things like that, and focus on pressures. And that's not because they're boosting their stats because it soothes their ego. It's because there's a very concrete way of measuring how active you are off the ball. And that's done in running stats, pressures, and amount of accelerations. This stuff is all tracked, often very difficult to access actually publicly. A lot of that stuff comes through Opta. Yes, there's a focus on stat boosting when it comes to that. It's a sensible focus. It's not an individualistic pursuit. When it comes to rawer stats, the stuff that we see a lot more, goals, assists, progressive passes, stuff like that, that's much more about different play styles. And we often see very reductive usage of stats that are popular to define lots of different kinds of players. And players get pinned into these kind of very stereotypical ideas of what positions are meant to, what roles are meant to be in certain positions and stuff like that. Football doesn't necessarily always work like that. Sometimes you have roles that are suited, certain players are suited to certain roles, but play in positions that don't usually perform those roles. And that's often like why I think someone like Aaron Cresswell can get a lot of flack, because generally teams don't play their most progressive passer from left back. So people aren't necessarily looking for the progressive stats in the left back. They're looking for the stats they usually look for in a left back. But actually his strengths are almost what you'd look for in a progressive 8. And you'll find that he excels in that way, but he does it from left back, similar to Souček, very offensive number 8 who offers a lot off the ball. People kind of every week come around to his passing stats and say his passing accuracy was terrible. But yes, he plays in central midfield, but that's not actually his role in the team, because you can move the roles to different positions and adapt your system to enable that. And that's what you've seen at West Ham a lot. So in terms of the stat boosting question, not really, only really in a sensible way when it comes to sort of distance and off ball work, I think.
I remember when Jesse Lingard joined and he referred to his whiteboard, didn't he? And then not long after he was with us, because he kept scoring all the goals, obviously his little whiteboard that he created was doing quite well, and he put it up and it had dribbles per match on it. Yeah. And I thought, you greedy so-and-so, what are you focusing on that for? That's not always to the better of the team when you're skinning somebody so you can get your stats bumped up or something.
But like, I think, sorry, just to jump in, I think they can often be used really positively by agents and by coaches as motivational tools for players, when sometimes the deeper level of analysis can be difficult to communicate because players actually aren't always as interested in football as you might think they are. Having very simple benchmarks for players to understand can be very, very good for motivating them.
When, as a data guy, because when I like my stats, and when Brentford got promoted, I took it as like a victory for sort of like data-led views into football. But then also when Kevin De Bruyne went and negotiated his new contract at Manchester City, and he didn't have an agent, instead he employed an analytics team that put together all these statistics, and he went into Man City with a dossier and went, boom, there you go, that's how much I'm worth. It was almost like a Moneyball equivalent of how to negotiate your contract. So rather than saying I am worth X, he said I am worth X. There you go, yeah. On the table. So do you take them things as like small victories for people like-minded like yourself?
Maybe a little bit. I think perhaps more so in recent years through Analytics United and through working with Cal. I think I've become a little bit more interested in analytics-driven recruitment. I think a lot of that stuff in terms of analytics-driven management of teams and how to manage a squad and how to blend your team and all that stuff is and training and all that stuff is very well advanced now. And I think now you're maybe looking at a little bit more about how analytics is used in recruitment and how it can be used to drive recruitment. And when I say that, you definitely don't use analytics as deciding which players you sign, but what it can be absolutely amazing for is netting. It tells you where to look. It's perfect for being able to identify what things the team lacks, and then going out and looking for players that excel in those metrics. And that just gives you a vague idea of where you want to be looking. And then it's all video review. And that side of more analytics-driven insights has become much more interesting to me in recent years. I think Brentford is a great example, but Brighton a really, really strong example as well.
We've got like our own Jordan Miles here, Gonzo.
I like it. And it's fascinating to listen to as well. I mean, it's something I wouldn't even, consider half of it. Honestly, I really wouldn't. I mean, I have a fascination in the other aspects of it, which is the human side. I'm thinking now, how are we going to motivate Craig Dawson? Are we going to, that sort of thing? And I've got some views on what we should do there. Funny enough, I was discussing with Gio earlier about Aubameyang. And about Aubameyang he's an effective and he's an excellent player, but he's not really found any love anywhere. He's become a journeyman footballer. And actually, I was thinking about when Paqueta was warming up and the lift of the stadium and just what a sort of boost that will give to his morale. And actually, I was thinking about it when I thought about Aubameyang. I thought, actually, he's not really loved by anyone. And actually, more the human aspect and how, whilst they're probably bigger and better clubs bigger clubs and more successful clubs for Paqueta to join, he's going to feel really loved here. And actually the impact of that on your performance and stuff like that. So that's the stuff I give thought to. I don't even think about press, counter press and stuff like that. I notice little nuanced things in the game, but I don't really know what they mean. So it's fascinating to hear it described.
Right, we're going to turn to the live chat now and fly through some questions that you guys are putting to Jack. And it's sort of like a 2-for-1 question here. Zahim is asking for the best position for Cornet. Don't answer that. Okay, you can answer along with this one, which is from Cutter, says, statistically, is there a reason why Moyes isn't giving Cornet as much time? Is it the actual system?
Yes, it's because if you look at, if you take a purely metrics focused view of Maxwell Cornet, in terms of the front line, there's this question over his left wing back flexibility and whether that might be something that we look to in the future or look to incorporate with the back three system. Not something that I think we'll see us use so much when we're using Pablo Fornals in the hybrid position where he sometimes is a left wing back, sometimes a left midfielder. A metrics driven view of Maxwell Cornet is very much the right wing position in the squad. It's the Jared Bowen spot. And I think the spot that's up for grabs in the team is the left wing spot. And actually more what you're looking for from that player is a reliable source of creativity, intelligence on presses, and then also a degree of cross success that is somewhat reliable, not something that we often have at West Ham, but that these are not elements that necessarily are super strong in Maxwell Cornet's game. I think much more in terms of the fit of how we've played so far this season. He's probably more seen as a Jared Bowen backup. Looking at just the metrics for us at AU, it definitely seemed like the Ben Brereton Diaz option, the flexible player who can play across the front line, fulfill a number of roles, not necessarily someone who comes in and walks into the first team.
Andy says, are Pringles a crisp?
Yes.
1-1. Come
yes,
on. Yes.
Come on.
It's dried baked starch and rice flour.
Hang on a minute.
I'm sorry, Gonzo.
Wait, Jack.
No, don't be sorry. That's a fact. That's a fact. You got to be all statistics based. You can't ignore the facts now. It's rice flour and starch, and I'm afraid it's not a potato crisp.
Crisp stats. Mick, give us a quick answer, Jack, so we can try and get through as many questions for you as possible. He's asking, is there a player we should have purchased?
Yeah, Melvin Bard or Adrian Truffer instead of Emerson. Very underwhelmed with the Emerson deal. Don't think it's long-term planning at left back. And I think there were plenty of options available that were much longer-term view and would allow us to play Cresswell, which is clearly the first choice option for this season. I
think you've just answered this question. Have we overpaid for anyone?
Yes, Emerson. Yeah, it's the one transfer that's really weird.
Major's asking, have you ever had a chicken doner kebab?
Not a kebab person.
What?
Not a kebab person. Chips.
Oh.
Have you tried a kebab?
I'm waiting for Charlie here. Hang on, we're waiting on Charlie. Charlie's slacking.
I'm having a grand old time right now. I'm eating my Pringles. Jack's saying all the correct words. I'm having a grand old time. Enjoying my
crisps. Snacks. Yeah.
I'm just having a great day. I'm having a great day.
Ron D'Antoni is saying, Jackie could bring in one more player. Who would it be?
Oh, that's a really difficult one. Coop Miners, Tayon Coop Miners, as an 8.
Yeah, Tayon Coop Miners. Which midfielder you would like. Jack is asking, have you seen any promising young players?
That's a very broad question.
Lots.
Give us a young name that perhaps the majority of us. There's 1,067 people watching right now. Thank you for tuning in. Give us a name that you reckon 900 of us haven't heard of that is out there in European football that may be in the Premier League in say 3, 4, 5 years time. That everybody will go, wow, what a player that is.
Miguel Gutierrez is one of the most interesting transfers of the window. Absolutely outstanding last season for Real Madrid Castilla, Real Madrid's second team. Loads of assists, great range of passes, great energy down the left side, clearly capable of playing in lots of different systems as a left back. Hoovered up by City Football Group by Girona for £3 million. Looks like a future Spanish international, someone that I think will definitely see at the top level of the game, maybe in 4 or 5 years time, because he's still very young and also quite small. So there's a lot of adaptation or development there physically to go.
Needs to speak.
He was someone at AU. We were like, when we saw the transfer fee of 3 million, we were just stunned by how we hadn't shown any interest in that whatsoever.
What's his name again? So I'd have to rewind.
Miguel Gutierrez.
I'm going to remember that.
So I'll remind you, G. I've been having a look at him myself.
Oh, right, okay. You're going on. Gonzo likes to go on YouTube and look at highlights of players and then decide whether
everyone knew about Miguel Gutierrez. I'm surprised you had to ask the name twice. I'm surprised West Ham didn't go out going for him, to be honest with you.
Anyway, Jack is asking Jack, who is our most effective attacking player? Interesting way of questioning that.
That's very difficult to quantify because each player fulfills a different role, and they do so with different levels of efficiency. So Antonio is very effective at what Antonio does, but the efficiency isn't always there. Jared Bowen is very effective at what Jared Bowen does. When he's in form, the efficiency is absolutely there. And Pablo Fornals is relentlessly effective at what he offers to the team, but the efficiency is extremely low. The difference with all three of these things is that you need those roles. You need all of those roles to combine. And someone like Pablo Fornals has been the only player in the team who's had that skill set in the same in terms of line breaking forward passes and being able to play them first or second touch. So in terms of how crucial someone is to the team and how effective they are at performing their role when it's crucial, it's Pablo Fornals. In terms of effectiveness, just generally, it's Mikel Antonio.
I can't wait for a video next week when Gonzo's discussing finals. He's going to say he's the only one in our team capable of playing midfield breaking passes with 1 or 2 touches.
Hold on, I'll tell you what, I don't need to. You can go back retrospectively. I've already said it in the last 2 or 3 videos actually, but I just described it differently. I said he plays.
He works hard.
Quickly. No, I said he plays the ball forward quickly. I said he's often catching the player when they're running past them. Where basically when now one of our players is running in the opposite direction to the opposition's defence, and he will do you've called it a line breaking pass. I didn't have a name for it, but yeah, it's all there, mate. It's all there.
HNO is saying, Jack, do you think you've got a bit of Ed Sheeran about you? You do a bit.
I dropped out of college when I was 17, and one of the defining experiences of going to college, I went to what was an all-girls secondary school and a mixed college, and I remember walking down outside of the music department. At the time, I was in a band and interested in music and not really that bothered about football. And an entire girls' class, probably about year 10, just burst into Shape of You as I walked past. So yeah, I think I have got a bit of Ed Sheeran about me.
I like that. You didn't have an interest in football at the time, did you say?
I had an interest in football, but my focus was on music back then. I wasn't really that bothered about.
You have an interest in girls. That's what I'm interested in. With all the
I was in a relationship at the time.
That's very lovely of you.
Johnny's asking what we should do with Souček.
Key member of the squad, very important player in the 4-2-3-1 system when you want to counter attack and you need an additional box threat, and also in the back 3 system when you're going to be countering from deep. And also counter pressing. You see that in the Spurs game, incredibly important in terms of creating chances from winning the ball back. Bowen's chance that goes just wide is a Souček pressure, winning the ball back and playing the right pass, and it's Souček who scores the goal. He's been the most threatening player in the final third for us. In terms of when the team is dysfunctional and how you create chances, Souček is that player, even though he often looks like the most dysfunctional player in the dysfunctional team. So he's very, very important to us. He will become less important as players like Lucas Paqueta and Gianluca Scamacca become integrated. For now, he remains a key member of the squad.
I am just flicking through all this to try and speed it up, really, so I can let you bugger off, really, because you've been sat here for quite a while. Thank you very much. Elbow suggesting that we're quiet for the first time ever. We're respectful to our guests, Elbow. When they come on, we let them speak. We do it every day of the week, don't we?
I tell them we don't understand what they're talking about.
Alan Woody is asking, is this your job, football data analytics, or is it just a hobby for now?
It is my job. I made it my job as of 1 month ago.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really huge step for us, and a really big step for me personally. I've worked in football for a long time now. When I dropped out of college, I went straight into working in football. Initially as working in the stock cupboard at the Blizzard magazine, which is Jonathan Wilson's magazine, sort of politics, history of sport, football specifically. And then I went on to do digital editing there, podcasts and stuff like that. And then since then, it was a hobby, writing for KUMB, writing for West Ham Till I Die. And then, yeah, it's only really been in the last year that I've taken it really seriously. And it's a ridiculous thing that I'm in this position. But a month ago, it felt plausible to be able to turn it into a job. So, yeah, it's my job.
Good for you. Good for you.
Andy's asking your favourite band.
Oh, God, that's a really difficult question. My favourite artist is either King Cruel or Bon Iver. And my favourite band would probably be Queens of the Stone Age.
Not my kind, but fair enough. Whatever.
Yes, Jack. Yeah.
What are you doing back here?
I'm just excited because now we've got Queens of the Stone Age chat. I'm just having a good day, Gio. I'm sorry.
Get a room, you two. Actually, to be fair, folks, they do have a room on our Patreon channel. And
I see Charlie every week.
Just we'll last question for you, Jack. John's just asking if a Premier League club offer you an analytics role, blah blah blah, or is journalism your dream? What is your dream then? Is it to sort of eventually join a club, I guess, or is it to go down the journalism route and do it on your own and freelance and whatnot?
It's a big decision. It's one that I've had to talk with my family about quite a lot over the last 2 years, because obviously there's a lot of training you can do to go into the game more directly. And I've had a lot of very kind and generous people who are in the game who have given me a lot of encouragement about going into the game more directly. I can step back. It's less easy to step back once you're in the game in that way. And it becomes much more dominating. It's much harder to have other things going on in your life. That hasn't been right for me personally over the last 2 years. But it may be something that becomes more doable for me going forwards. So I don't think my dream is to be a freelance journalist forever. I would like to at some point test myself on the bench somewhere, and be involved in some capacity with a club. It's actually really exciting at the moment, just getting my first consultancy stuff with clubs and just working on training footage and sending comments back. That's been amazing stuff that's come in just in the last month since we set up AU. But yeah, I'd love to do it at some point, but I don't think it's what I want to end up doing full stop, because I worry it kind of, I mean, you see what the managers are like, it takes over your whole life, and yeah, it's very difficult to get out once you're in.
Need to speak to Jordan Miles. Have a word with Jordan Miles, see if they're recruited at West Ham. And lastly, last question, I promise you, is from Lewis. What's your socials? Can you give yourself a shout out? Tell people where they can find Analytics United, what your social media is, so on and so forth, please.
You can find me at Jack Elderton, pretty simple, on Twitter. And you can find Analytics United at analyticsutd_. I do a free article, if not 2 free articles every week. If you want a full match review, where I do the whole tactical breakdown and stuff, then you can sign up and become a member of the site. So yeah, just for most of our stuff, if you find analyticsutd_, you'll find pretty much everything I write will be shared there at some point.
Thank you very much, Jack. A pleasure having you. There's a lot of love for you in the live chat. I've been clicking on as much as possible so you can see it, but I'm aware it puts you off as well while you're speaking when there's things coming up. So I am aware of that. But thank you very much. A pleasure having you.
Cheers for having me on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks Jack. Thank you. Just want to say a quick thank you to Scott for the 179 super chat. Said the Three Amigos. This was at the start of the window when it was the two of us and Charlie, the old school, back together. He's given the window a 9 out of 10, and James Gunn has basically said, "This is Jack's chat now. Me and Gonzo can do one essentially." I mean,
what do you think he was talking about, Gio?
I could tell you looked a bit lost at one point. I could tell that you were just woof.
What's going on there?
Were you Googling what is second phase pass?
I was Googling what's a left back, to be perfectly honest with you.
Lots of love for Jack. Pleasing to see. As we mentioned, we're going to keep banging on about Patreon for the next couple of days because it is the best time to join. But Jack does a podcast with us every single week over on our Patreon. If you want to hear more about Jack, the last week's show with Cal was 49 minutes long. The previous week was 42 minutes long with Jack and Charlie, to get into the real tactical side of the game and probably give you a completely different outlook. So when you think Creswell's had a poor game, go listen to Jack, and suddenly you come away thinking actually Creswell actually had a good game against Manchester City. Go to patreon.com/Hammers Chat. You can join up there from £3.60 per month, and you will get an episode with Jack every single week. If it's not Jack, it'll be Cal, often a slightly different but an incredibly similar outlook on the West Ham game that's just happened, as well as some big news around West Ham. It is a fantastic podcast. Jack's just come on and given you a little example of what you can get over on that podcast. So patreon.com/Hammers Chat. Massive thank you to anybody that does go over and join up, because without Patreon, we would not be doing one video per day on each channel. And thank you to Miss Stat for the 179 super chat as well. Anyway, Gary just said this actually. Thanks to Jack, so knowledgeable. Big gutty doesn't rate Emerson. Said there was at least 10 better left backs we could have got. Has that got you a little bit worried about Emerson? Bearing in mind that this guy's Jack's very praising the window of all a lot, but that one in particular he didn't seem too keen on.
No, because something I said before about it, he just mentioned, he said, I don't think this is a good long-term answer for us at left back. And I said when we signed him, I don't think this is Moyes' answer long term at left back. I don't think we paid massive money for him in terms of the transfer fee. So I also think that getting Emerson in, and it's like I say, this is all part of it. I thought straight away, as soon as we were linked with Paqueta, this is getting Emerson in was to get Paqueta over the line. It was almost like Agent Soucek getting Soufal in. That's not saying that's the reason we bought Soufal. Look, I think he's a competent Premier League left back. I don't think he's our long-term solution. I think David Moyes is going to spend big on a left back. But basically, he's Paqueta's mate. And I think if that helps him, basically helps make the deal. So, yeah, I'm not overly concerned about it. I thought he looked all right as well when he came on the other day.
Yeah, I think he's looked all right as well. I was a bit sort of meh with the transfer when it first happened, but I am aware I've got a little bit of sort of snobbery towards it because I guess a bit like what Jack and yourself are saying. I do think there were better options out there, and I think we were linked to the better options as well. Doesn't mean we were interested in them, of course. It's just rumours. But I sort of got my hopes up that we might see this player or that player and didn't get either, and we ended up with Emerson. I was a bit like, I don't want that one. But once I've got over my football snobbery, I warmed to the transfer a little bit. And at the end of the day, how much did he cost, Emerson? It's on the screen in a minute.
10 million up front, rising to 13, I believe.
But it's relatively cheap for what we've got. If you were looking at the top left backs, I know Jack will pick out a more obscure one from the Dutch second division that cost 2 million is better than him.
Yeah.
But the ones that I know, they were going for 20, 25 million and stuff like that. So we had to save the money.
And he took a pay cut as well, so I think it's okay. I don't think he's going to be our left back in 4 years' time, but it probably suited the purpose with Paqueta coming in.
Anyway, Craig Dawson has not yet left West Ham United. It's extremely unlikely that he won't, despite very strong links with him to Wolves earlier on, with them bidding 5 million for him. David Moyes confirming the bid last night after the game. Dawson wished to move nearer to his family up in the Midlands, and that's why Wolves were one of the clubs he was expected to go to. It's believed that Craig Dawson wished to leave. However, David Moyes didn't want him to. It seems that Moyes has got his wish, Gonzo, and Dawson will be here by the looks of it for certainly the first half of the season. But yeah, he wanted to leave. What do you make of the whole thing? Because, well, like I said, the player had a desire to leave West Ham United.
Well, I say frequently, I'm surprised we don't hear more of it. I'm really surprised we don't hear more of it. If I was comfortable, I would not move my children out of a school and constantly move them around to change their friendship groups and move my family around. I just wouldn't do it. It would be me that had to make the sacrifices I do. I think whilst you might earn millions and millions, I think, a child's education and, having a stable upbringing is fundamentally important to how they turn out as adults, basically. And I think moving them from town to town every couple of years is not a good thing at all. Never mind country to country. So I'm not suggesting that was Dawson's thing. So he left his family up there. Right decision, mate. What I find it as I say, I think I don't hear enough of it in actual fact. So the fact that we don't know what they are, what the family difficulties are. I don't want to know. We shouldn't know. It's not our business. What I do know is we're paying him a really, really good wage to play football for us. And when I mentioned it earlier on, when Jack was on, and I mentioned that sort of aspect of football, the human side does interest me and always has done, the way people think and motivation, stuff like that. A couple of people posting there, Dawson doesn't need motivating. He'll just turn up and he'll play and he'll give 10 out of 10. That's right. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think if you just assume that, well, there you go, it's Dawson, just get out there, get on with it. It's that sort of attitude, I think possibly doesn't help. So I think there's a compromise there. I think we've looked after the club first. I think that's right. Now we've looked after the club. I think we have to try and look after Dawson. And maybe we need to try and find a way where if he's traveling down for training every day, I think he's that good, he's that committed that actually, I think if we could sort out where he misses a day's training each week and spends an additional night at home just to get him through to January or something like that, sort out whatever's going on at home, I think we'll get 10 out of 10 performances out of him anyway. I'm in terms of effort. I'm not saying he won't make a mistake on a football pitch. His professionalism will be beyond doubt. But since we've got that, let's not take advantage of it and say, well, it doesn't matter, mate. I don't care what mood you're coming into work. You're playing because we're paying you X amount. No, let's try and make this work as best we can and try and be a little bit flexible with him coming in. I'm sure there's a solution for both parties to get to January.
I can see both sides of it here, really. I feel a bit sad that he's not able to leave if that's his desire, because we were informed of this at the very start of the summer's transfer window. So I can only assume that he's wished to leave since the start of the summer transfer window, and we've left it up until deadline day before we even considered selling him or replacing him. And I feel a bit sad in that aspect that he's, by the sounds of it, gone about the right way of saying, listen, Gaffer, I'd like to move closer to my family, please. And we've left it till this late before we bothered to try and sort something. And I think out of loyalty towards him, we could have done something about it a little bit sooner to grant him his wish to move back to his family. So for that aspect, I do feel sorry for him. I agree with you. I think there is a compromise there. One thing that it always sticks in my mind what Declan Rice said. I think it was at the player events when they did the awards night, that big event, and he was speaking about how the season had been tough because a lot of the players had spent a lot of time away from their family because of the success in the Europa League. And when you think about it, I mean, we're at home the first game. They fought next Thursday, essentially. So in 2 weeks' time, the boys are away for a couple of nights from their family. Then they might have an away game in the Premier League. They're away for another night or two. And it does probably add up. So I think there's maybe a compromise there where Craig Dawson perhaps isn't used for the away games in the Europa Conference League or something. Like you said, give him a day off of training or something. And I'd imagine there's a gentleman's agreement that it is just stay till January and we'll let you go in January because Aguerd will be fit by then. So we won't need you anymore anyway. The transfer fee will be a lot lower, so more clubs will be interested in you. But at the same time, like I said, the flip side is he signed a contract. When he moved here, he knew where his family was going to be residing when he signed that contract with West Ham United. He knew he was going to have to do the commute every day, a commute he was already doing because he was on loan initially. So he was doing that before he signed for us on a permanent move. So I do think, well, can't really have it both ways.
No, but I'll pull you up on that. That assumes that the assumption is there that the family dynamic hasn't changed.
Yeah, yes, that is true.
And I believe it has. And you have to, it's got that. But there's a couple of people. It's a really good point, actually. People keep on. I know half of it's been said in jest about his helicopter, David Gold's helicopter. I don't know but I tell you what, it's not the worst shout in the world because I don't know. I don't know how quickly that gets you up to wherever.
What are you proposing? We start putting Dawson in a chopper with a pilot and flying backwards and forwards from training.
Look, give him 1 day a week at home where he stays there the night. And I don't know whether it's an illness. I don't know whether it's something to do with the children. I don't know it, but there's something going on. Remember, as I say, it's not our business. But yeah, I mean, and then if you can do 2 of the training sessions where it's not a 4-hour car journey, but it's actually a 50-minute helicopter ride, I think it'd make a hell of a difference.
The other thing is we've got the World Cup as well, so technically there's no football from the middle of November onwards, so that 2 months essentially.
Depends how well he plays, Gio.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. But it looks like Craig Dawson shan't be departing West Ham for $5 million, which means Moyes pulled the plug on Jan Benderek. Why do you think Moyes had? It feels like a change of heart to some extent. I mean, it's not really, because Moyes reiterated consistently that he didn't want Craig Dawson to go, but it still felt like we were pursuing getting Benderek in on loan. And then at the last minute today, we've gone, actually, no, we're just going to leave it. We're not going to go and do the move.
Well, I think Moyes has just probably looked at it. Actually, Dawson's just a much better player. Look, David Moyes has made the best decision for the football club, and I think that's the right thing to do, and that's really my point. Now we've done that. That doesn't mean we have to be as ruthless as hell. That's fine. If he wasn't the right fit for the club, and Dawson was, then that's it. We keep Dawson. Dawson's the right cover. And that's all I think it was. I think it would have been he's like a journeyman loan signing that would have been here for a little while. I'm not talking about Dawson. I think Moyes made the right decision for the football team.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, I was hardly doing cartwheels at the potential signing of Jan Benderek, but I do think context is important, which is you've just been brought in as cover so we could offload Dawson. And we were strongly linked to a right back from Torino. I don't know his name. I don't know how you pronounce it. Well, how do you pronounce his name that he's played for Fulham?
Oh,
Aina.
We were laughing in a chat about Sholarama, weren't we? Of course, that was a singer. That's about as good as we were going to get, I'm afraid. He was at Chelsea's academy, I believe, and represented England at under 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then decided to play for the country of his parents' birth, Nigeria. I couldn't tell you anything about him at all. But again, I think it was a decision of practicalities. We had some late, not drama, but some late interest maybe from Newcastle. Ashby possibly indicating that he wasn't going to sign a new contract. And all I can say is actually you could look at it from a negative point of view. I mean, Ashby can, or you could look at it from a positive point of view. And all I would say is Ashby is so well regarded by Moyes in terms of him being cover at right back that Moyes thought, if I lose Ashby, I need to bring a right back in. Because I'll tell you now, if you lose on Becco, he's not thinking, hold on, I need to bring another striker in. Do you know what I mean? So I think he is in Moyes' plans, as I maintained from whatever, since when we started playing the friendlies. I think when I saw him, possibly Rangers, can't remember, but we played a friendly, and I saw him play, and I think, including substitute appearances, he may well represent West Ham 15 times this season. That ain't bad, you know. Now that may change because he may get sold or leave in January, but I would like and hope that he was going to give us a chance. But I think that was it. It was only necessity we were going in for the right back. He was there basically to take Ashby's place in the squad. Yeah,
I think by the sounds of it, we were using the Dawson money to purchase him and then the Ashby money to loan in Benderek as well. So it was sort of like the domino effect and stuff. I don't really have an opinion of him. I know he played for Fulham, but I can't really recall him that much, to be honest with you. So I don't really know too much. The more interesting thing is Grant Holt was the one that was out in Italy scouting him to sort of have a little look and feedback to David Moyes, and they've obviously decided to go with Grant Holt's advice, which is, that's the guy that we could pursue and get in. I find it more interesting that we were going after a right back, which would see us retain 3 right backs in the squad going forward, whereas, the left back, for example, we've only got 2. I know Ben Johnson can play there, but I just find it perhaps a little bit interesting, like you said, that we felt that the departure of Ashby required replacing, but no other youngster does. Like Armstrong, Okaflex, for example, gone out on loan to Swansea. Fine, don't worry about it. Not an issue. Not going to miss him. We don't need him. Away he goes. But with Ashby, no, if he goes, we do need him. What do you make of the Harrison Ashby thing then? Newcastle came in £2 million bid. It sounded like it was advancing, but again, it sounds like Moyes is the one that's blocked it and said, no, you're staying here. And it sounds like the club are hoping that they'll be able to persuade him, put pen to paper between now and the January transfer window.
Well, I'm pleased to see him put his foot down on that one. I don't blame Elise for doing it. I looked at Elise, I think you're just not going to get a chance. I said this, we had a point last season, everyone was injured, even Dawson was injured, although he played with one injured centre-back, and Elise still didn't play. And at that point, I said last season, forget it, mate. There are no set, the very exclusive set of circumstances that need to happen for you to play have just happened, and you didn't play. There's no chance. I felt the same with Longello. And actually, I even said when Perkins, I sort of get it. I understand it. I thought there were other opportunities to play Perkins last season. He didn't use them. I don't want to paint every youngster that wants to leave with the same brush, though. I think Ashby's circumstances are different. I think he does have a chance. I think Moyes does rate him. I think he is going to play first team football. He's already found himself involved in the first team squad. He's already played in one of the qualifiers in European competition, which is a really great place for some of these players to make their name. I think he's a quality above some of the other players that we've mentioned as well. I've thought it for some time. He looks really good quality. The fact that Newcastle want to buy him probably smacks of how much quality he has. And I do think, I'm pleased David Moyes put his foot down. Now it's over to David Moyes to actually show him. And I would like David Moyes to almost say those things that I've said. Look, mate, forget what's happened with Elise. You're not Elise. Forget what's happened with Perkins. You're not Perkins. You're not Longello. You're not Okoflex. You're better than all of them. And I really rate you. And I'll tell you what, mate, you're back up right back. All right. And back up right back when you're playing 50, 60 games a season means you're going to play this season. Let me prove to you that you're part of my plans. I'm going to utilize you. I'm going to drip feed you in. And within 2 years, mate, starting the third season, you're going to be West Ham's first choice right back. That's the schmooze factor, Gio. He needs to schmooze him now.
I think the Europa Conference League provides an excellent platform and opportunity for Harrison Ashby to give him game time. And I think sometimes talk is cheap when it comes to football. I think sometimes you've got to put your money where your mouth is to some extent. And if we want to say to Ashby, you've got a route here at West Ham, I think we've got to prove it. I think giving him or trying to give him as much minutes in that competition, especially at the group stage level. He doesn't have to be in with the youngsters or anything like that. He could have Tilo Kehrer next to him and Jared Bowen in front of him, for example. He can be in the actual first team. And then we'll see if he's good enough, first and foremost. But secondly, if he is, then it gives Harrison Ashby enough evidence to say, actually, I've got plenty of game time here. I've got a future at West Ham. Sufalo's not getting any younger or better, so I can nick his spot. And this is where you almost want to see one or two of the youngsters like Ashby, when they are on the fringes, just to back themselves a little bit rather than taking the easy or the sort of the most lucrative route elsewhere. I think sometimes when it comes to Ashby, I almost wish someone could just have a conversation with him and say, do you think you're good enough for the penalty? Yeah, well, stay here and get Sufalo out of the team then. You might have to wait a little while for your opportunity, but when you get one, which you will do because of injuries at West Ham, grab it with both hands and make it difficult for the manager to put you back out the team. He's showing with Ben Johnson that he will give you plenty of game time. Anyway, Gonzo, you ready for our next guest?
Bring him in, mate. Bring him in.
Here we go. It's Mr. Irish Tommy. Tommy, how you doing?
Good. Pretty happy overall. It's nice to have a nice relaxing deadline day for once, actually. No stress. You can go to bed. And so it's quite pleasant, actually. I could get used to this.
The big question, Tommy, are you using your internet or your mum's next door neighbour's internet?
I'm not in Tipperary, so I'm good. I'm actually at home. So I'm on my own for once.
Excellent. Nice to see you, mate.
Good to see you.
Tommy, normally we get you on deadline day and you're a little bit grumpy what we're lacking and stuff. So it's nice to get you on when you can be positive for a change. What's your thoughts on...
Smiley Tommy.
Yeah.
Smiley Tommy.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the overall transfer window? Pick out anything you want to say. Give us your thoughts.
Very, very happy overall. It was a slow burn, and there were times where I was a little concerned. There were a lot of players leaving at one point and not really anyone coming in. So there was a period of uncertainty, I think, in the middle of the window where I had some concern, certainly not panicky by any means, but where I was just a little bit concerned. I think the squad got down to about 18 players at one point. And I'm thinking, okay, boys, we could use some players in here. And of course, none of us really knew what kind of budget we were dealing with. Certainly didn't think we were going to spend the kind of money that we did. Really did not expect that whatsoever. So I started to worry a little bit, actually, that maybe we were going to do something similar to what happened when Pellegrini kind of spent his money and kind of went for quantity over quality. Because I thought, we're threadbare now and we've got to make a few signings. And I just don't want us to go down that route again of lots of cheaper signings who are not especially good, because I felt that would be a really backward step. But thankfully, I mean, I think we've all been amazed, really, the amount of money that we've spent and the quality of player that we've brought in as well.
Is there anyone in particular that you're concerned about, or are you happy with them all?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with them all. Obviously gutted with what happened to Aguerd, but this is what happens when you play Scottish teams. You just get lumps kicked out of you, don't you, Gio?
I love a bit of Celtic rivalry. If I just go down, you can shout at each other like that.
It's all good.
Maybe if he didn't miss the pass in the first place, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that'll teach him. Hopefully a lesson learned. But you can do that in the Premier League, maybe, but you won't get away with that in Scotland. You'll get cleaned. But yeah, no, I think I'm very happy with all the signings. I have to say, there's maybe a slight concern over Flynn Downs. It was a lovely story. Him. West Ham family. He's a lifelong West Ham fan himself. One of the photographs actually when he joined with him in his shiny new West Ham shirt, he had his grandfather's scarf draped over him. So that was a lovely story, and I think there's an awful lot of goodwill towards Flynn. But some worrying sounds coming from Moyes recently that he feels he's probably nowhere near ready for Premier League football. And I think even Flynn himself kind of mentioned that, once he started training with a proper Premier League club, he realised that the step up was maybe more than even he expected. So I really hope that he'll come good for us. I hope that he'll be able to make that adjustment, make that step up, and that we'll start to see him. Because at the moment, there's the worry there it could turn into a Krall situation where we just never see him because Moyes never really feels that he's ready. So a little concern there maybe, but that would be the only one probably.
Yeah, and we've got a question here from... I've lost it. From Hammer 1999 says, what's in the water over in Ireland at the moment that convinces West Ham to keep buying young talents from there? What's your knowledge like on Irish football? Is it non-existent, or can you tell us a little bit about Marshall and that we brought over?
No, not really, to be honest. Certainly don't know anything about Northern Ireland, which is where we got.
There you go.
Which is where we got Patrick Kelly from. But no, I don't know a whole lot about them. They're very young anyway. I probably wouldn't have known much about them, even if they were, championship players, and they're so young, they're prospects, and we bring a lot of prospects in. It would be nice to have someone, another Irish player as well as Declan in the team. But
excellent.
Hopefully one of them will make it. But it's tough, it's a massive step up, obviously. We've seen a lot of really good prospects, being brought into the club, and it doesn't work out for the vast majority, unfortunately. So I'd keep my fingers crossed for them, but, it's difficult. But we'll see, hopefully. Marshall is banging them in under 18, so Marshall looks a prospect, to be fair. He's banging them in.
He's started to feature for the under 21s as well. He started to get a bit of game time, so it looks like he's been fast tracked up to that age group. So, he's pretty much getting a hat trick every game at the minute. I'm almost disappointed if I see the under 21s have played. He's not got a hat trick. I'm like, he was slacking. What was he doing that game?
To be honest, a while back, I started banging on a bit about Tony Martinez because he was absolutely banging them in the under 21s as well, and I thought he was going to make it, and so I'm going to be a bit more coy on this one, I think.
Well, he did make it in the under 21s.
Yeah, but that was
to be fair, Martinez has been playing Champions League football for Porto. I think he's had an all right career. I'm just not with West Ham. That's all. And just want to say very quickly, thank you to Ryan for the 179 super chat. I think he's talking about Gonzo and Tommy there, and a massive thank you to Derek Newcastle for 450 saying, loving the show as every deadline day and great company. Love Irish Tommy. Let's hope for a great season with new additions. Come on, you Irons.
Cheers, Derek.
Something, whatever that square was. So yeah, thank you very much to those people. Ryan's still putting in money. I don't know who Ryan is. I think it's almost like kind trolling, and he's paying for it. So I'll keep clicking on it, but thank you very much, Ryan.
Who looks hot? I'm just overheating.
I think someone's flirting with you, Gonzo.
I thought you meant from sweating or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, men's not hot.
That's right. That's a song, isn't it?
Anyway, Tommy, we've asked you about the transfers that have happened, but what about the transfers that haven't happened today? Craig Dawson remaining at West Ham, as has Harrison, Ashby. What do you make of them?
Yeah, my real worry was the Harrison Ashby one. He's someone I think has a potentially very bright future. This stuff is starting to happen in the game now. There seems to be a real kind of lack of patience with certain youngsters these days, where they want to move off, I think, prematurely. And I think it's unwise often. I mean, did he think he was going to go to Newcastle and play? I mean, that's unlikely. And I think you mentioned just before I come on, Gio, like if he has some self-belief and he really believes he's going to be a Premier League footballer, then do it here. It's not like Sofel is setting the world on fire. It's not as if Johnson is setting the world on fire. I'd maybe understand if we had some kind of, world-class right back who's 24 years old and he figures, I'm never getting in the team. But I mean, if he believes in him, he has an opportunity to challenge for that jersey, and for a starting place. And I'd rather he stay and do that. I don't know exactly why he's wanting to go, if it's a contractual issue. We've seen that before with youngsters who want quite tasty money given their lack of experience and their age. So maybe that's an issue, but I would love to keep him. I really would. And, I think he's a player who could force his way into the team. I think he's that good. We may see him, in Europa League group stages. He's perfectly capable of playing in those games, depending on the draws, might get chucked in against Blackburn potentially in the Carabao Cup at home. So if I were him, I would keep my powder dry and I would really try to force my way into the West Ham team. So I'm really happy he's staying. I was worried about that one. As for Dawson, obviously, look, he's hugely popular. And he's been fantastic for us since he joined. He's a real leader on the pitch too. I've just been so impressed with him. Great attitude. Okay, he has an error in him. He can get the red mist at times, and do something rash and get himself sent off. But overall, he's been brilliant. But I wasn't nearly as worried about Dawson moving on. I felt, look, if he goes, he goes. We'll wish him farewell and thank him for all his efforts. So him going wasn't that much wasn't bothering me as much as it seemed to a lot of other fans. Like, I wouldn't put him up there in the Ginger Pele category. Someone I have a huge fondness for his service to the club. Like Craig a lot, but he's not on that level for me, so I wasn't too pushed about that. He could have got
there, Tommy. He could have got there if he'd have stayed. I understand why he can't, but another 3 years here, I think he would have got to that level.
I think he would have. He would have been like Ginger Pele to us. We would have had an incredible fondness for him. But look, Craig Dawson is Craig Dawson. I mean, it's not a major loss, and he can be replaced quite easily, thankfully.
Someone's spending far too much money flirting with Gonzo on here. That's what I will say.
I like it. I like it, Ryan. I've got to tell you, mate. I've got a date tomorrow night, mate. So, do you know what I mean? I'll be on. I might take up weight training tonight. Make myself look a bit trimmer for tomorrow.
The only thing Gonzo's lifting is the bloody Pringles tub. For some prime crispage before his day. The one thing I will say about the one.
And just on your.
Yes.
Sorry, I was just going to say before you move on, just of course, with this big date you've got tomorrow, Gonzo, just a safe trip to Brighton, mate. Okay, come back soon.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I might not even come back. What goes in Brighton stays in Brighton, Tommy. I might even stay there, mate. I tell you what, if you see me doing the review for the Chelsea game without this backdrop behind me, you'll know I got lucky.
Yeah, if you're on a pebble beach, we'll know you've done well.
Absolutely, mate. I'm very good at skimming.
And the one thing I will say about Ashby is that to defend Ashby potentially moving to Newcastle, on the assumption that Ashby was keen to go there, of course, he might not have actually wanted to go. It might have just been that Newcastle wanted him, and that was that. There wasn't really anything that said that he had a desire to go to St James's Park. I do think there's a route for a youngster to play at Newcastle because Kraft's out for the season now, so they do need a right back. It was very much reported from the Newcastle side of things. If they signed Ashby, it would be for the first team, not for the under 21s. He was going into the first team squad, and he'd be sort of back up to Kieran Trippier. The other thing is, one of his teammates from Scotland is Elliot Anderson, who is now in Newcastle's first team, and he's getting first team minutes in the Premier League for Newcastle as well. So he's essentially got his international teammate playing first team football for Newcastle. And if that is what he's after, he's probably got his mate in Newcastle saying, well, come here, you get into the team. If you're good enough, you get in. Eddie Howe's a great manager. And Eddie Howe has got a great track record for giving youngsters a chance previous to Newcastle United as well. You go back at Bournemouth, they would always buy young players as well. It didn't always work. They overspent on a lot of players, especially from Anfield. But Eddie Howe was always quite keen to bring in youngsters to the club. So I think, and then when you look at what Brighton did when they had Dan, what's his name? Ashworth. Is it Ashworth? Answorth? Ashworth?
The Brighton guy.
Yeah, they went to Newcastle.
Yeah, that's
it's
Ashworth.
Ashworth.
Yeah.
At Brighton, that's what they did. They bought young players. It wasn't quite ready for the Premier League yet, but they believed they would be in a year or two time. So if he's bringing a similar structure to Newcastle, then I can understand why Newcastle were after him. Actually, I actually could understand why Harrison Ashby would be tempted by the new St James's Park. But I'm glad he's here. I feel like we've almost bought the first half of the season to convince Ashby he's got a future at West Ham United. And for the sake of $2 million, I'm okay with that. It's not like, Dawson for $5 million was quite a generous fee, I think, for a 32-year-old player. Well, it's quite a fair fee, I suppose, but we're making a profit on him. Whereas Ashby for $2 million, I think I'd rather turn down that cash and try and convince him to stay at West Ham beyond this season. So yeah, I'm pleased he's stayed anyway. Anything else you'd like to add, Tommy, before we say goodbye to you?
Yeah, just one thing.
Here we go.
I've loved what I've seen from Kerr so far. I know he had a little bit of a shaky start, but in fairness, he was kind of thrown in at the deep end in a difficult game. And I think against Brighton, to be honest, I think Zuma hung him out to dry a little bit. Zuma was just going walkabout up the pitch. And you saw the difference in Zuma against Villa and against Tottenham, where he just stayed back and stayed in his defensive position. He was much, much better. And I think that really helped Kerr as well. When his partner wasn't going walkabout up into the opposition half and leaving him stranded. So I've really liked what I've seen from Kerr. I think he'll continue to improve. And I think, I think it was £10.1 million or 12 million euros. I think that could prove to be an absolute snip. He looks a player. I thought he was fantastic against Tottenham, despite the unfortunate on goal. So I think that could prove to be, could potentially prove to be one of the best signings we made this summer.
Good man, Tommy. Well, thank you very much. An
Thanks,
absolute
mate.
pleasure as always.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate
Cheers,
it.
mate. We'll see you soon. Come on soon.
Our next guest should be, if all goes well, approximately 13 minutes away, which gives us 13 minutes to interact with the live chat and just say, again, thank you to Ryan, who has
Thanks, Ryan.
spent a lot of money to flirt with you tonight, Gonzo. He said that he's just bought a ready meal for two.
To be honest, Ryan, you need a bit more than that, mate. Because
I don't know what Ryan's eating.
When I go, if you haven't seen me eat, mate, because see what that meal for two, I actually look at things, and when it says serves two, I always ratchet it down. And think that means serves one.
Luke here is asking if can you see Kerr having a future at right back rather than centre back?
Well, I don't know about a future, Luke. I don't, I couldn't tell you what Moyes' thinking is, but certainly I was talking to Gio this morning, and I said I'm interested to see him play at fullback. I'd be looking forward to that point. I hope it's not injury or a set of circumstances that forces us to see that, but if and when it happens, and I think it will happen at some point, I'm interested to see him play there. I think we've got a really versatile player, and I think these type of versatile players that you have in your squad that can play in a number of positions. I mean, and Cornet, Jack was speaking about Cornet earlier. They're really important, I think, if you can actually think Ben Johnson be another one, that you have 3 or 4 players who can cover several positions, gives you real flexibility, not just in terms of your squad, but I think actually in game as well. If you want to switch tactics in game and you've got a guy that plays 2 or 3 positions, you can actually switch tactics without having to make a substitution. Not that it matters these days. You can make a million substitutions. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him play at fullback one day.
Yes, just a massive thank you to Dad and Vincent. He said this. He said it's a fantastic channel. We watch him while now at Patreon. Keep up the good work, and also put $8.99 into the super chat. If you've attached anything like a sticker or whatever, we can't always see it. That is what we see on your screen. So because of the software we use, so apologies if you have. But like I said, I did see.
I'm assuming it's a thumbs up and not like a poo one.
It might be like a big aubergine or something. I don't know. I don't know, but he's very impressed anyway. So thank you, Darren, and thank you to everybody that's currently watching live. There's 1,177 of you, which is just mental. By far the most we've had watching on a deadline day, which is a bit sad, really, when I think about it. Because in the deadline day, we've had some right belters. We've had Jordan Hugo Gate, where we were expecting someone, and we got Jordan Hugo, and we thought, who the hell is this guy?
We didn't know who he was. We didn't have a clue.
Fans in the live chat laughing at us, telling us we've overpaid, and we've discovered it was David Moyes' brother's the agent of the player and stuff. So we sat here scratching our head, wondering what on earth is going on with Jordan Hugo. We've had that other window. I get a little bit confused just thinking which window is which, but I remember we were in a relegation battle, and it was January. And we didn't sign anyone in the whole window. We came on deadline day like, we've got to sign someone. And there was a lot of rumours going around during the day going, I don't think we're going to sign anyone. And we thought, we must sign someone. We did the deadline day show. And we just sat here the whole time like, I can't believe.
And we used to do it. Now we're wise to it. We do 2 hours on transfer deadline day. We've sat here for 8 hours and stuff before, haven't we, or whatever?
I remember talking about what Arsenal's signings were just to fill it out and stuff. So now, we've cut it down to 2 hours. Just got the guests in, bam, 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 rather than stringing it out for 5, 6, 7, 8 hour time. We don't need to do that anymore, and I'm kind of glad, to be honest with you. I think I look back now and thinking, how did I even manage that? I get tired doing 2 hours. I get off after 2 hours and think, that's a lot of flipping Gonzo. That is.
I know. I don't know. I didn't go to the toilet. What?
Do you remember the Tony Henry Mayhem story? Oh, word.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him. To be fair, forgot he was even. That was the first. That was really. I know he was at a different title role. That was Moyes' first Rob Newman, wasn't it? Really, because he brought him in. I know, as I say,
I forgot about that because I remember having to. I remember it came through and it was in the live chat, and I thought, this can't be real. And then I had to go then I remember being very careful reading out the article word for word, just so there was no legal repercussions for us.
We're not media
a certain someone. I'm being racist, essentially. And I remember having to read it out.
We're not trained for that stuff, are we? And when it comes through, and it was like a minefield, wasn't it? He'd obviously done some right dodgy stuff, and we're doing West Ham news live. Crikey, how do you talk about that?
Diafra, remember that when he just buggered off to France for his medical on his own, and he wasn't even allowed to go, and he had to get back because we had the game. They got back, and his agent said, we're stopping in past Chelmsford because I've got a horse racing, and then his horse went on and won.
Yeah. But this is the thing, I think sometimes you think football's different. You put 100 people together in a room and you're going to get all sorts of people. Why would football be any different? You're going to have crazy characters in there, and by association, they're going to have mates that are a bit crazy as well, and these funny things are going to happen. And stopping off for a horse race is very, very unique, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, so 1,100 of you are kindly tuning in. Hopefully you've all liked the video and subscribed if you're new around here. But you've all tuned in and there's nothing happening. We've not signed anyone. We've not sold anyone. There's no controversy. There's no anger because of lack of signings. No, we've spent 180 million. We've signed Lucas Paqueta, Nathan Guerd, Lucas Scamacca, plus others as well. Tom in his dress.
That's right. These people have been watching a long time.
Honestly, sometimes I see a comment from somebody in the one of the videos, and I sort of know how long they've been subscribers to the channel because of what they say. And there was somebody called FX. I think he's actually in the live chat. There's someone called FX commented saying that the other day, because we hit 27,000, he said, I remember when you hit 3,000. I thought, bloody, even I can't remember when we hit 3,000. I couldn't tell you when it was. Young Tom and Charlie is better at that stuff than I am, because
I remember being chuffed when we got 50.
I got nervous when we used to get like 100 views on one video. Got 100 views. I used to get buzzing. It's
funny. Can I just say, don't believe too much that was Tom's mum's dress, is all I'm saying. I'm very proud of that frock.
See, I'm almost in a weird way questioning that as well, because Tom's mum is quite skinny. She's got a small frame, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Well, let's get back to see what everybody in live chat's saying. Like I said, hopefully our next guest will be here in the 5 minutes or so. John's asking, can we officially say we're not run like a circus anymore? I think we're run like an organized circus at worse.
No, I think it should be banned. That phrase should be banned because what seems to follow that is bad luck and bad management and bad planning. So I think we just stay away from there. I don't want to make any predictions of how we run. Also, I just don't know what's gonna happen. I'm far from certain where this money's come from. I think there's even a suspicion this money hasn't come from Gold Sullivan or Kretinsky. Bearing in mind our new board member. So, but yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But we certainly have spent an awful lot of money, and you've only got to look at the Chelsea takeover, which, if you're going to watch, when's the Chelsea preview going up?
Tomorrow morning.
We can tune in tomorrow morning. We've got plenty to say about that on there.
Other than the obvious Jesus and Haaland, what's your favourite non-West Ham signing of the window?
Oh, I mean, it's hard. Can I just talk about Jesus? I know you sort of banned him from, but
it literally said without except him. He picked the person kindly just said without these two because they're quite obvious. Who would you pick? And you said I'll have one of the obvious ones, please.
Well, I'll tell you what. That free signing Carvalho don't look bad, does he? You know, judging on last night, I've got to say, I thought he looked absolutely amazing. Oh, it's hard to say. Old Isaac looked all right, didn't he, for Newcastle yesterday? Did anyone else feel a bit crap when it happened? I almost don't, because they were trying to poach Ashby as well. I almost don't want it to work out for him, if I'm perfectly honest.
Hang on. I'm going to get him in. Hang on. Charlie, you hearing this? That guy for Newcastle. Is he trying to wind me up on purpose or what?
one of the people you've been banging on about for years at this point.
He's trying to wind me up or what?
Well, you know.
That's Danny Ings, isn't it? Just Danny Ings he likes.
Anyway, Alexander Isak is a top sign, and he will be class for Newcastle. Would have loved him at West Ham. Southampton centre back Bella Kachap. Is that how you pronounce it, Charlie? Give me a thumbs up. Bella Kachap.
Ketchup.
Give it to me, Bella.
I'm not. I've never been sure. I think you've nailed it.
Belly full of ketchup. Belly full of ketchup.
Bella Kachap. I think that's his name. Bella Kachap. He looks class. When against Chelsea, he was just. I think it was Raheem Sterling at one point was running in on goal and just come speeding across the pitch, last ditch tackle, wiped out Raheem Sterling, ball went flying out for a throw in. Oh, it was mustard. Him and Salisu are going to make a real good centre back pairing at Southampton. So Bella Kachap is probably the one I'd pick out after Alexander Isak, but that's a bit of a tap in for me. So I'll leave it be. Right, we've got our next guest getting ready to come on. Give him a second to get his camera lined up, and then we'll drag him in for a little chit chat. Right, let's see what you're all saying in the live chat very, very quickly.
And actually, our next guest has actually travelled back in time.
He has a bit, yeah. He's gone back to where it all started for us on YouTube.
I don't know.
Dean, just bless you. I saw this earlier. Bless you. A year today since his mother passed away, but he wouldn't miss tonight's mayhem. Best bless you, Dean.
Best of luck to you. Dean's been watching for a long time, a long time.
Right, let's get him in. Stel, how you doing?
To be fair, it is quite hard on this when you're using this software to align your camera and align yourself right up in a little sliver that we give you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How you doing?
We can't see you particularly well, but we can hear you, mate. Tell you what, try and come back out and then come back in. Yeah, you might get a better connection. You might get a better connection doing that.
Yeah, we'll get him sorted out and get him on anyway.
But he's going back in time, isn't he? So it's hard to get a really consistent stream.
He's gone back so far in time. He's on bloody dial-up. Leo's finished his first uni game. They won 3-0, clean sheet. Yeah, we know Leo was 3-0, and he's close to grabbing a goal from defence and midfield as well. Well, you didn't score though, did you? So I'm joking, Leo. Well done. Leo's a good subscriber and patron of ours as well. Thank you very much.
He certainly is.
Anyway.
Yes, sorry, Summer James has just said the camera issues were simpler in my cupboard. Yeah, there you go. James been watching a long time. Remembers the cupboard, the cloakroom, the toilet. It wasn't the toilet.
Ben says, great advice from Gonzo. Basically saying, have you tried turning it off and on again?
Honestly, it happened to me over the weekend, and I was away at the weekend. There was a real complicated bit of equipment. I was just saying to him, "Have you turned it on?" He said, "I can't work," and he hadn't actually turned the plug on. Not still. So I think, yeah, it's always the first thing you do. Sometimes you can check your camera, check your headphones, check all your stuff. It might just be as simple as turning it on and off again. As advice for you, do you know what I mean? We don't even charge for that stuff.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm just messaging Stel, funnily enough. Charlie, can you text Stel, please? He's just asking for the link. Thank you. Cheers, Charlie.
Absolutely. There we go. So there's a lot of people remember the cupboards, to be fair. Scotty D in the house there. Was that floating cups of tea? What's he mean, floating cups of tea in the cupboard?
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe that refers more to your state of mind, Scotty. I don't remember any floating cups of tea.
That was the last ever game of Upton Park. Michael, he was. Yeah. I wondered where he went because he was meant to be sat next to me, and he just never appeared during the game. And I thought he was missing the last ever game at the ground. To be fair, I think I missed it as well, thanks to consuming some beverages in the bowling prior to the game, and then ringing Charlie to tell Charlie the game's been delayed, although he's just sat home.
Crazy, wasn't it? Absolutely crazy what went on that night.
Can I just say, sorry, voice of God, hello. Can I just say that one of my favorite phone calls I've ever received was when the game got delayed, but Gio hadn't found out yet. Absolutely drunk out of his mind in the stands, being like, Charlie, it's not kicked off. I've got a hot dog. And he's just like screaming at me. And I'm like, yeah, it's been delayed. What? Just, I've never had such an enjoyable phone conversation with someone who just was refusing to believe that the game got delayed. But what a day. Also, Gia, check your messages real quick.
Thank you. Scott saying the big poster behind me, that was a classic. It was. We've still got them.
Yeah, we do still have them. In fact, funny enough, I actually do have one to give away.
Oh, no.
Well, you have to say
when your missus would pass you a cup of tea, it would just come in the door, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That did used to happen. Yeah, to be fair, that was the floating cup of tea. Now I understand. Yes, very nice. Well, actually, it was horrible tea, but there you go. I was grateful for it at the time.
Yeah, happy days. Someone just asked for like a Hammers Chats highlights video or something. There you go. Chippy say you don't have time, but we'd love to see a best video of the cupboard years. We might have to do. We'll have to do something during the World Cup, so don't discount the best bits of Hammers Chat in 2015, 2016.
I remember thinking there was a bit was very wrong. I remember saying to Jerry,
that.
It wasn't my date up the shot.
I know, but it was a joke. It was a joke, though, weren't it?
It was a joke.
Taking her up the shard.
Yeah. I've never taken anyone up the shards.
You're missing out.
I wouldn't get that high. I was Borough Market at the bottom. That was more. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that word, should I? Bottom. Anyway.
Yeah. This is turned out. This is how quiet it is on transfer deadline day. We're now talking about things that have happened on Hammers Chat over the last few years.
I like so many people have stuck with.
We've been doing it since the summer of 2015, so just over 7 years now. We've been doing YouTube, so it's been quite a while.
Man,
Michael remembers you being drunk on the boats. When isn't he?
Which one?
How much time left? We've got 26 minutes, 27 minutes left, and then the summer transfer window gently closes.
Absolutely. Do you think that was? I think Villa have done some desperate business, haven't they? Really, as well. And I don't know if Louise has gone to Arsenal. I know that was it. I switched the telly off about halfway through our video here. To be honest with you, Villa are. I think Villa are in a bit of trouble, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they signed in Donker.
Yeah.
But I think that's the domino effect so that Douglas Luiz could leave. And I think he was trying to get to Arsenal, but I don't think he's gone yet. Anyway, we've got our next guest while Stal sorts his bits and bobs out. Nicky, how you doing?
I'm good, man. You? Sorry, is it a bit dark?
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about
We got you.
How are you feeling?
I'm extremely well. Yourself?
Yeah, but how are you feeling about the transfer window?
I'm happy. How can you not be happy? It's I think it's been quite a decent window. I'm not entirely convinced we're fully covered, but I think we're in a lot better position than we were last year when it comes to not. I don't think squad depth, because I don't think we've added too many more than we let go. But in terms of quality and people competing for positions, you know, I was sitting there thinking today about even the likes of Kira that's going to go under the radar a little bit because of the signing of Paqueta and people like that. And I was thinking, when Aguirre comes back, he's going to have a real problem there in defence. You know, Ogbonna's still looking solid. He's got another year left. Dawson stayed in the end. You've got Zuma, Aguirre, Kira. And you'd be quite comfortable for any of them to play at any given time, wouldn't you? And then when you look at the likes of Paqueta, Benrahma filling the same position, Scamacca now, Antonio, there's real competition for places in the starting 11. And I think that's what we needed. I think, you know, people that can actually compete, because when you look at last year, you know, with all due respect, with Mark Noble and Yarmolenko and Ryan Fredericks and players like that, you never quite felt that, oh, this week we could give Antonio a rest and play Yarmolenko, or this week we can give Souček or Rice a rest and play Noble. They wasn't, you know, they would fill a gap if there was a necessity, but we've got competition for places. And I think you're going to see the best of not only what we've brought in, but the likes of Said Benrahma, who knows now, you know, I've got real competition for this number 10 spot. You know, it's going to bring the best out of them. And I think you saw that in the performance last night with the likes of Antonio. Although he didn't score again, I thought he was very good. He looked back to his best. He was putting, he put a real shift in, you know, most running I've seen him do for a long time. Because he knows now if he doesn't perform, Scamacca's going to be there to take his place. So I'm happy. I'm happy with the window.
I'm looking at the money spent, Nicky. You know, there was talk earlier on in the summer transfer window we'd have a budget of around about 150 million. I'll be the first to admit I laughed at that and thought, not a chance. You'll be looking at 50 million if you're lucky. But they've spent 180. They've recouped some of it, of course, with the sales of Issa Diop, Masuaku, and Vlasic Chen out on loan. Have you been impressed / surprised by the spend up so far?
A little bit surprised, because, you know, we've heard, you know, I think it was earlier on in the window that there was rumours that we wouldn't spend any more than we bought Aguirre for, which was, you know, it's not what you want to hear, but it's not something that we ain't seen in previous windows. So I'm a little bit surprised that they've put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. But, you know, when you think about the business we've done over the last few years, it's not, you know, it's not a massive splurge in terms of FFP, because, you know, we haven't traditionally spent that money. But, you know, they've backed Moyes, which, you know, I always thought that they might do it this window, because we've had two really good seasons. You know, we've seen them rest on their laurels before, but with new ownership really on the horizon, I don't think they could afford to let the team slip to the position where we were, say, when we come to the London Stadium. You know, off the back of a really good season, you think we're going to push on. We've got world-class talent in our team, and then they signed basically squad filler, and that never really works out, does it, in terms of, you know, trying to go forward with a club. They're going to want to sell in the next year or two, and they've got to be in them high positions, and the higher position they are, the more money they're going to get. So do I think they've gone out and, you know, said, right, this is the culmination of the move and all that? No, I think it's a protection of asset rather than trying to move the club forward. But listen, I'm not going to moan either way. They've done it. So yeah.
Do you think it applies a little bit of pressure to David Moyes? Because obviously in the last 2.5 years, he's been here for nearly 3 calendar years now since he took over from Pellegrini, discarding his first tenure. So nearly in November it'll be 3 years. he's always had this sort of the underdog tack to some extent because we haven't spent loads of money. It's always felt like he's been overachieving by getting us into European competitions. But now we've spent 180 million. It almost feels like qualifying for European football should be what we're doing given our expenditure this summer. So do you think it applies a little bit of pressure to David Moyes to some extent?
I think there's pressures there. Not just qualifying for Europe, which, you know, I think the best way for us to concentrate on that with the squad we've got is to win the Conference League. I think it's quite realistic to look to win that competition after what we've done last year. Now with the squad we've got, to at least give that a go and qualify for the Europa League through that. So I don't think it will give him pressure in that sense in the league, because if we can win that competition, then it doesn't really matter what happens in the league as long as we don't go down. But what he will be feeling pressure on is the likes of Scamacca, who's come in, big money signing for us. You know, we've seen the likes of, you know, this is why I'm not getting too excited over the likes of Paqueta. Big money doesn't always mean big performances. You know, we've seen the likes of Haller and Anderson came in. They didn't really work. Anderson, you could argue, for a season, probably Haller for half a season. But, you know, their performances really dropped, and we ended up having to basically give Anderson away. You know, his performances dropped that much. So, but what he will be feeling pressure on is that, you know, he skipped 3 transfer windows looking for the perfect striker. So you'd think to yourself, right, if he's taken this long to pick Scamacca as his man, the man he's going to want to lead the line, then he's got to perform. Because if he doesn't, you know, there's going to be fans thinking, well, why have we been waiting for so long? You know, when there's other strikers that we've been with in the past that have gone on to do quite decent things. So if he doesn't hit the ground running, Scamacca, I think he will feel pressure with him. But I think we'll be a solid team this year. I think, you know, the last 2 performances, second half against Villa and last night, you know, show that we're getting back to where we were last year. And with the additions, once they bed into the squad, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be good. I think we'll be up there or there against next season. This season and next season.
Lastly, Nicky, before I let you disappear, is there any transfer, what transfer in particular that we've come in has caught your eye the most, or are you most looking forward to seeing?
It wasn't one that initially caught my eye, but Cornet looks class. He really does, for the money we've paid for him. And, you know, he had a bit of a nightmare debut against Brighton, but he looks comfortable. He looks, he eats up everything. Unfortunate last night with the own goal, but he's got a touch of the Rio Ferdinand's about him. The way he's comfortable on the ball, he brings it out. He's quick. He's one that I'm really going to be keeping an eye on, because I've been reading some reports about him. I've never really heard about him before. I know PSG fans. A friend of mine is a PSG fan, and he said they didn't really like him now. So I was a bit like, when we signed him, I was a bit, it's a necessity with, you know, with Aguerd injured and no centre backs available at the moment. We've got to sign him. But the games I've seen him play so far, he could definitely become a staple in our defence. And he's one that I'm really going to keep an eye on, because I think he could be a big player. He's only young as well, but I think he could be a real steal for what we paid for him. So yeah, I'm interested to see that. But apart from him, Scamacca, you know, I want to see a centre forward doing centre forward things. They're scoring goals, holding up play, making the runs, dragging the defenders around. We haven't seen that for such a long time. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think last night, if he'd have played, I think he'd have made the difference. The chances we made and some of the positions we got ourselves in, you know, especially that one that got cut across the box when Paqueta and I can't remember who it was, left it and it rolled through them. He would be there and he would be slotting that away, and you know, that's an instant hero status for them. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Correa, especially because he could be real special.
Excellent. Well, Nicky, thank you very much. A pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, mate.
You can catch up with myself and Nikki tomorrow over on West Ham Fan TV, as we'll be going through all the incomings at West Ham United and rating them out of 10 neck online stuff over on West Ham Fan TV tomorrow for myself and Nikki. Now he's been waiting patiently. It's attempt number 2, but I can confirm I've seen him in the green room moving around, so his connection looks a hell of a lot better. Stell, how are you doing?
I'm frozen.
yeah. Should have come on like that.
Good evening, lads. Thanks for inviting me on. Really appreciate it.
Where can people find you? We often get asked where's Stell these days. Tell them. Stell.
He's on the West Ham Voice. I've created my own channel. It's been running for about, in earnest, 3 or 4 months now. West Ham Voice. Couldn't be any simpler.
Go search for it on YouTube. Not just yet. Wait till we finish the video, then go search for it.
He's not on there at the moment.
I'm not on.
He's not live. There's no point going over there. You're not going to find him. And when you do, his connection's a bit iffy sometimes.
You know what? When I got sent it on the phone, I thought it ain't going to work, but I'll give it a try. But thankfully, Charlie came to the rescue. So
Charlie's good with stuff like that. We've got a good one in Charlie. But thank you for joining us, Stell. We're going to kick it off with a question from Leo. And thank you, Leo, for the super chat. Leo says, with the window coming to a close, what's the aim for us now? What's the objective in the Premier League and in the Cups? And he wants to know what our guest says as well.
Shall I start? I think if we win a cup this season and finish mid, I know people aren't going to like what I'm going to say, but if we finish mid-table with a cup, I'd be happy with that. I think that would be a quite successful, because I was talking to when I did a show the other week, we were talking about what would you rate this season to be successful, and we all said in the show, you remember a cup win. You might remember finishing 7th in 5 years' time, but nothing else to show for it. Whereas a cup, you can turn around and say we won that, even if you finish 10th or 11th or something like that. I'd be happy with that. Of course, I want to be greedy and finish higher, but I'd go for a cup. And I don't care which one we win, because most of them will give you European football next season as well.
Gonzo?
Well, look, I know Arsenal are probably top or whatever, but City are a class above. They've gone now, right? So I would go as far as say anything City don't win is up for grabs from any one of a number of clubs, and I would put West Ham in that category. On our day last season, before we spent 180 million, I'd say on our day, and it proved it. Last season we beat Liverpool, we beat Chelsea, beat Man City, not Man City out of the cup, didn't we? Beat Tottenham. Sorry, I don't know why I threw Tottenham in there. I was talking about big clubs, but I do think anything that Man City don't win, I think really do think we're in with a really, really good chance. And those additional signings can only give us more confidence. You've only got to look at the lifts that stadium got when Paqueta came onto the pitch yesterday. If you've got that buzz about new signings, plus you've got that buzz every time Declan's playing well and Antonio's playing well, and all these other guys who we already love and we really appreciate. I think we could get a lot of momentum very, very quickly. And there's one tournament that Man City can't win. They're probably good enough to win the Champions League and the Conference League, but they can't win the Conference League.
Yeah, it's while I wouldn't discount the Carabao Cup, I would love to win a trophy. The Carabao Cup rewards you with the Conference League again, so I'd much prefer the FA Cup or the Conference League as a win. And to some extent, I think I prefer the Conference League out of them all, because it is a European trophy, and I think it's probably got a little bit more sex appeal to perhaps players of clubs on the European contingent rather than the FA Cup. While in England, I think we hold the FA Cup in higher regards, and rightfully so, in my opinion. I do think the Conference League probably carries a little bit more weight with your French clubs or your Italian clubs or that, especially after Roma winning it last season. I imagine that competition's got a lot more coverage and prestige in Italy than it did 12 months ago when it got underway for the first time. So, yeah, in the league, listen, if we win a trophy, it doesn't really matter where you finish as long as you don't get relegated. But if you don't win a trophy, then I think you've almost got to be hitting the top 8 mark or getting 7th and praying that City do go on and win the other domestic ones to push the European places down the league. Still, let's take a look at the transfer window, though. What are you thinking? What's your sort of summary and your feeling over our incomings?
You can't not be happy with what we've got in. It's been impressive, and I think it started well, didn't it? We got Agerd in pretty quickly, and we thought, here we go. And then we had a bit of a lull. Then we got another player in, then a lull, then another player in. And I think the third signing, everyone started to get a bit anxious. It's like, well, where's the next signing coming from? And why is it taking so long? And then all of a sudden, the players that we've got in, I mean, come on. Did we honestly ever think we were going to get a £52 million sign? We had two £52 million players on the pitch last night. Who was the best? Who was the one that looked like he was worth 52 million? Don't say Richarlison, because Paqueta came on and he looks the real deal, doesn't he? He looks like he's up for it, and I don't think any West Ham fan can be unhappy. Even with some of the players that we kind of didn't get, throughout, the last two windows, Darwin Núñez and, Luis Diaz at Liverpool and Phillips that went to City, etc. If they were real, if they were real targets, and then we sort of look back and say, well, have we done as well? Yeah, probably the only thing that's missing maybe is we know Moyes wanted another defensive midfielder, didn't he, to sort of maybe give Declan and Souček a bit of a hand in there. And if there's anything missing, maybe if you really want to be picky, maybe another defensive midfielder. But more or less, we've got everything we need. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I always try and look at like context of it to some extent. And on your ticket banner there, you've got the incomings, but you've also got the outgoings, and there's direct replacements there. It's quite easy to sort of tally them up and say, okay, well, we lost Yarmolenko and we brought in Scamacca. We lost Vlasic, we brought in Paqueta. We lost Masuaku, we brought in Emerson. And when you think about it like that, and it's hard to argue that there isn't upgrades in every single one. The only one I'll give you is Mark Noble leaving, and we're replacing him with Connor Coventry. That's the only one I think you can say, right, fine, that's not an upgrade yet. Hopefully in a couple of seasons' time, Coventry might make it, he might not, I don't know. That's the only one I think you can make a point about. The rest of them, I think it's quite clear that we've upgraded pretty much every single player that's left. And also, coming into this window, somebody reminded me of this earlier on. They said basically you would have been happy with Jesse Lingard and Kane Lewis Potter, and you've actually got Paqueta. You're thinking, hang on a minute.
Can you imagine? It's a blessing in disguise we didn't get Lingard, because would we have gone for Paqueta if we had got Lingard? Probably not.
So.
No, but I think we probably would have spent the money on Onana. So I think we had sort of almost one £50 million sign in us. So I mean, so I think the attacking midfielder. The idea there was the attacking midfielder will be covered on a free, and I think the moment Lingard's wages got so extortionate, they started to look at the package. Well, actually, this is not like a free transfer anymore. This is starting to eat into me big £50 million, me big player. I think looking at it, Moyes always wanted to bring in a premium player, to use a terrible term.
How did you feel, Stel, coming into deadline day? I mean, from content creator side of things, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it, when you're not signing anyone on deadline day? But from a West Ham fans aspect, I mean, what a relief is it to come into deadline day, not worried, not panicking, not being stressed or hoping we get in this guy or that guy, not thinking, I hope David Sullivan doesn't drag in one of his typical, I mean, even
special
last
signings.
Yeah, well, even in January, he was going after Gabigol, weren't he? He was trying to throw him and squeeze him in on Moyes and say, well, here, have him. I don't want him. I don't care. Just take him. It's different this deadline day, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a sense of relief, but I think we're happy, aren't we? Because we've gone into the final day almost knowing that we just have to tie up a few loose ends. And we kept hearing the last couple of days we've heard maybe Lanzini was going. We've heard about Ashby possibly going, and I believe that's not happened now because I've not been around the last couple of hours. But and then Dawson, of course. So if anything was going to happen, it was going to be to tidy up a few loose ends. If any of those three players were really going to go, then we just needed to get a replacement. So that felt good. And also when it comes to creating content, you could sit back and go, I don't have to worry too much. I just talk about the transfers rather than worrying about what might happen at 2 minutes to 11. We can all go to bed straight after 11 o'clock.
Yeah, happy days. John's asking how much we paid for Paqueta, but did you see David Moyes' comment after the game, or it was before the game, sorry, when the journalist asked him about his record signing, and the first time he answered, Moyes ignored the record signing bit and just spoke about Paqueta. And the journalist said again about a record signing. And Moyes said something along the lines, I'll pick you up on your word there, record signing. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, the club tweeted, like, here's our record signing. David Gold tweeted, here's our record signing. I mean, I know Moyes likes a game of bluff,
isn't it?
Yeah, Moyes likes a good game of bluff, but it's a bit. There's some things I think it's just not worth pretending about, and I think that
he wants to play the underdog card. That's the trouble there. His record sign at Man United was 30 million. I think Fellaini and Mata were both 30 million each. He probably don't sit comfortably with him the 50 million. And that's why I was at pains to say I don't think it is. And actually, even if it was, if you look at all the other clubs, 50 million is not that much. So yeah, he needs to be the underdog, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, 6 minutes to go until the summer transfer window comes to a close. Stevie's asking, if you're Declan Rice right now, what are you thinking?
Do you know what? I think he might be looking at the squad and thinking, even if we don't win anything this season, there's the start of something here. And the one thing that we all know that, we all hear that Declan's going to leave at the end of this season, because he wants to play Champions League, etc., etc. But I just wonder, if we have a good season, even if we actually don't win anything, if we get close, he might turn around and go, hang on a minute, I'm captain of this lot. I'm captain of Paqueta. I'm captain of Scamacca. And what Nicky said, I'm looking forward to seeing Kera and Agard playing at centre-back. They're going to be our two new centre-backs. And from what we've kind of seen from footage of Agard and having Kera alongside him, Declan might turn around and go, well, it might not happen this year. It's a year of transition. Might give it another year. I don't know. I know we all think he'll leave. I'm pretty convinced he'll. I'm sure you guys are convinced he'll leave. But I just wonder if he might turn around and go, why not another year? Are
you still convinced, Gonzo?
I've thought for some time. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool are saving up for him. And I say saving up, that's what they do. Liverpool basically have broken even again on a transfer thing. I thought it's been teams screaming out for it. The more with every week that goes by, Chelsea look less attractive and less able to buy him as well. I say that, as I mentioned, go and listen to our Chelsea preview tomorrow. The owners massively overpaid for that club as well. And I do wonder if that's even going to be something for him. I look at Manchester United, and for all their business, I still look at their central midfield. I think, you haven't really sorted that out with someone to absolutely dominate in central midfield. Obviously, City are not going to be interested either. Arsenal are not going to spend over £100 million on someone. I just wonder. So I think he'll go, but I do wonder if there's a compromise there, and that is he signs one more year on his deal. So basically, because we will activate the option anyway, so we might as well just pretend that that's the deal. It says 1 more year on his deal, gives us 1 more year, but he has the buyout clause in there as well, and at least it allows him that 1 more year to be earning.
Do you reckon, though, Gonzo, he might go abroad, Real Madrid? Because we keep hearing there's links to him. If any of all the clubs abroad, the only club that sound remotely interested in him are Real Madrid. So I don't know. I don't think he'll go to Liverpool.
I think they're Robert. No, it's the least likely option. But I keep looking at it, and I just think, I wonder. Klopp said something today. He said, I don't want whoever we bring in midfield to impact our long-term strategy for midfield. And I think a lot of people thought, that's him developing Harvey Elliott and stuff like that. I wasn't so sure. I wonder if he's sort of saving up for that.
Jude Bellingham. Everybody knows.
Yeah, I know. And you're probably right. All I would say is that all the Spanish clubs seems to be robbing Peter to pay Paul at the moment.
True.
And I cannot see them. Oh, did you hear him? What was it? Florentino Perez, when they couldn't get the Mbappe deal, he reported at PSG for financial fair play because they couldn't afford Mbappe, basically. Rather than them having the money to buy Mbappe, he wanted Paris Saint-Germain punished and then Mbappe given to Real Madrid. It was the most ludicrous rant I've ever heard. I think only PSG are the only club in world football that could afford Declan, aside from an English team at the moment.
I don't know what to think about Declan Rice thing, to be honest with you, because for the last 2 summers, I felt like he was going to go. 2 years ago, I thought he was going this summer. Then we kept him, and I thought, well, the summer we've just had, I thought he's going now. Then he's definitely going to go now. We've still got him, so it's sort of already surpassed my expectation in terms of keeping him at the club. He's got the armband now. I just wish he was a couple of years younger, maybe, because then I think you could then keep Declan at the club, and he is still young. He's only 23, but. When he's this time next year, he's 24, probably still not won anything in his career. And he is itching to win trophies and silverware. And if we win something, I think you might buy another year out of him a little bit. But then the club have to weigh at the pros and cons, which is, well, his transfer value starts going down next summer. I think this is as high as it's ever going to be unless he commits to a new deal. So next summer, it has to say he's worth 100 million. That's the market value. Did the club take that, or did they let him run it down? And you look at what Yuri Tielemans worth today, 20, 25 million, there's nobody after him. That's a class midfielder for 25 million with a year to go. He's going on a free as it stands next summer. So can the club risk letting him walk out for free?
But would you not have him, even if we let him walk away for nothing, would you not like to keep him for another 2 years and say, go?
Depends on the potential new ownership, I think. I think if we did have somebody rich come in and bankroll the club, and we could afford to allow a 50 million asset to walk out the door for free, then yes, I guess so. But at the same time, I do think the one thing I think the club's done poorly, and I think this is emphasised in this window, while the incomings are excellent, you look at the outgoings, it's pretty poor business that we got 15 million or whatever for Diop. Vlasic, who was stumped up 25 million for whatever for a year ago. And I know people say it's a Russian club and not had to pay it, whatever. We still committed 25 million a year ago to the transfer. We've had to loan him out to Italy 12 months later. Our outgoings is pretty shocking as a club. And when people say, yeah, but the net spend's been quite high the last few years, it's not because we spent loads of money. We spend quite enough. But it's also because we can't recoup any because the players are worth naff all, really. They come in and their value just dwindles. And I think there's one thing I sometimes wish West Ham could do a little bit better. It's not getting terrified every time one of our players gets linked with a move away, because player A will get linked with a move away the following day across certain sites, and that'll be like, oh, he's not for sale at any price. I think, well, that's a lie, isn't it? I don't want David Sullivan to come out and say, oh, well, he's 50 million. But we had no problem doing it with Declan Rice. We had no problem slapping 150 million on his head and saying, there's your price, pay up or piss off. And I almost wish we would do that with every player to some extent. A club comes in and says, oh, we want Jared Bowen. You know what, he's 70 million. There you go. You can have him. He's 70 million, though. And I just would like to get a little bit better with sales at West Ham to some extent, because sometimes you do have to take one step back to take 2 steps forward. But in regards to Rice, I understand why people say he didn't cost us anything. Let's enjoy a world-class player and let him leave for free. But at the same time, I also understand why some people would say we need to cash in on that 100 million to prove the squad. And one thing that's given me a little bit of encouragement this summer is looking at, on paper, we don't know if there's a success yet, but we've just spent less than 100 million and got Scamacca and Paqueta. 2 top quality players for the price of Declan Rice, really. And if you could almost replicate that next summer with different positions in the squad, one being a Declan Rice replacement and someone else, then I'd be okay with it. It's not selling Rice I've got an issue with. It's the worry of replacing him or not replacing him. But anyway, apologies for the ramble, but I believe the window's closed quietly.
I think I've got to do a bong. I don't actually. That sounds really wrong, doesn't it?
No, I was going to say you'll get the channel banned for that. Please don't.
Absolutely. I better do a bong. I was thinking more of a boing. Okay.
Boing.
That's the countdown clock.
Yeah.
Bong.
Okay. This is going to be a little bit wild. Very, very quickly, Stanley says, excited for the season, massive transfer, 10 out of 10. Happy to see the favourite YouTubers together. Thank you, Stanley. Much appreciated. Anyway, Stel, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I know you've had a lot on this evening, so thank you very much for coming on despite all of that. Appreciate it a lot. And don't be a stranger, and we'll see you in the future.
Absolutely. Cheers.
See you, mate.
Thank you very much, Stel. And if you wish to see more of Stel, do go search for West Ham Voice over on YouTube. He's doing his own channel now, really good content, highly recommended by oneself and Gonzo. So go subscribe to Stel's
Voice
channel. West Ham voice. Speaking of West Ham voice, here is the third Hammers Chat voice. Charlie, how you doing?
It's good. I'm glad we got a bong. I was concerned we weren't going to get a bong. And then someone in the chat brought it up. Mark Schmidt brought it up, and now we've got the bong. So I officially feel calm that the window has closed.
Thank you very much, Paul, for the £10 super chat saying brilliant coverage of the window. I think we've done quite well. Sometimes you've got to blow your own trumpet, and I think we have.
Oh, bong.
And I do think we have covered the transfer window incredibly well across both channels. I think I would say we've discussed every rumour. We haven't really. There's some we've missed.
Yeah.
We haven't even discussed the fact that Thierry Neves is left on loan. And has had a really good start as well at his new club. Vlasic had a good start as well with Torino. A couple of goals now for him over in Serie A.
Did you see that goal he scored today, by the way?
No, I have.
Absolute ripper. Absolute ripper. Not like a screamer from range, but just in a 6-yard. Unstoppable shot. Unstoppable. Very Scamacca-esque. Exciting for him. But 2 goals in 2 games.
Sign him up.
2 goals in 2 games. So there you go.
Can he play right back?
Maybe. Who knows? We'll give it a shot.
Anyway, there you go. That is the transfer window closed, and this is West Ham United's summer signings. Alphonse Areola for, I almost need Charlie to put the fees back up, around about 8-9 million. Nathan Guerrero for around about 25 million. Scamacca for 35 million. Paqueta for 52 million. Maxwell Cornet for 17.5. Now, I know that one. Why has Transfer Market got 18.60? Yeah, he had a release clause of 17.5. I'm not having that from Transfer Market. 17.5 million from Maxwell Cornet. Emerson for 13 million. We've also got Tilo Kehrer there for around about 10 million, as well as Flynn Downs for 9 million. Your West Ham summer transfer business, 9 new signings for the Hammers. Quite impressive business as well, Gonzo.
Yeah, Emerson looked like he was trying to hold a fart in that one.
Insightful knowledge. Well, that's why you come to Hammers Chat.
That's why you get it.
180 million, 9 new players. What do you think, Gonzo? He looks like he wants to fart in the picture.
Well, no, he looks like he's holding one in, actually. To be fair, Scamacca in that picture looked like he's squeezing one out. Pop it back up. You'll see.
Oh, jeez. I've just come off it. There you go.
There you go. I tell you what, I'm not wrong.
I tell
you what, look at the players.
It's the Scamacca one. It's the Scamacca one.
I think.
Can you spot the 2 players that aren't in the team by the expressions on their faces that aren't getting much game time?
I think Areola looks proud of the fart he's just pulled out. He's very happy with that.
I'll tell you, Flynn Downs is wearing the t-shirt he wore to go for a haircut. He's got that hairy neck t-shirt on and he's forgot about it.
I think you might be lifting a shirt up to get some of the waft out from, anyway, we'll see. Well, we won't see, we'll smell.
Just trying to get rid of the smell of your bong, I think.
Absolutely. That's going to be an interesting rumour. Did you see?
I just want to say a quick thank you to Connor, by the way. Connor, who's swearing here. Connor was the one that created that graphic.
Yeah,
it wasn't me
Connor.
or anything. Connor done it.
Sorry, Connor.
So thank you very much, Connor.
I appreciate it. Sorry, I lowered the tone again.
That's a surprise. But anyway, yes, summer transfer windows come to an end. The Hammers have spent 180 million. Charlie, summarise your thoughts, please.
I'm incredibly happy. I remember doing a transfer window show like this before, the first one at London Stadium, and we'd signed people in that I didn't think were possible, like Fuguli, and those ones didn't really work out. We're in a different situation now where you look at those players around, say, Paqueta, who was the unrealistic one today. The players around that player are so significantly better that I'm so confident that everyone's sort of going to work out to some extent. We've got a hard-working team. We've got options. We've got depth that we haven't had before. We let go of a lot of players, and we had a lot to do in this window. A lot to do. And we did it incredibly well. We just went about our business and got it done. And we've spent more money than I ever imagined we would. So I'm incredibly happy. I can't say... I literally can't say a single negative word about this window. I thoroughly enjoyed it, G, and I'm looking forward to season now.
Just a quick thank you to Scott for the 179. 3 amigos, pleased with the 9 out of 10. James was pleased to see Jack on went rid of me and Gonzo. Ryan started flirting with Gonzo and flirting quite a lot with Gonzo as well. And then he ended up saying great channels. Thank you very much. Thank you to Derek Newcastle as well, who enjoyed the Deadline Day show, and Irish Tommy. Also, James over at E20 Zone TV. He's pleased with the Tilo Kerr signing at 10.1 million. Darren Vincent probably put an aubergine or something in there, but we can't see what it quite is. But thank you very much to Darren, and also Mark as well. Alan popped in 449, said he's off to his bed. Thank you for all the content during the window. Loved the idea of the Hammers Chat highlight reel. And Leo popped in his $4.99. Say with the window come to a close, he was asking about the aims. Stanley Elsie's was excited for the season. He was pleased he's still joining us as well. And Paul with his £10 super chat at the end there to thank us for the coverage of the window. A massive pleasure. And thank you to everybody for your support. We're not finished yet. We've still got a few minutes to go. But before we do, one last plug for our Patreon, because it is vital to us and what we do. It's patreon.com/Hammers Chat. The link is in the description below. You can support us from £3.60 per month. And in return, you receive additional Hammers Chat content, including our player rating series. Jack, who you saw earlier with the data and the analytics, does a podcast every single week with Charlie over there as well. We've got Mike on Patreon, we've got my opposition prediction, we've got Mugger T, we've got monthly Q&A, and next Friday, our monthly Q&A guest is Harry Renap, exclusive to Hammers Chat Patreon. The patrons ask the questions. You can access it with the lowest tier subscription, which is only £3.60 per month. So if you're thinking about giving it a try, now is the best time to do it, because you get charged on the 1st of the month every single time. So you'll get charged today, and you won't get charged again until the 1st of October. But if you sign up in the middle of September, you'll get charged in the middle of September and 2 weeks later at the 1st of October. That's why the start of the month's the best time to join. But if you want to see our Q&A with Harry Renap, you're going to have to be on Patreon to get it. Do head over there. Massive guest for us. Huge coup for us. I'm excited. I can't wait. Anyway, Gonzo, give me your summary, please.
Absolutely delighted, mate. Just absolutely delighted with everything, really. I think we needed it. I think it was quite interesting, wasn't it, watching it go on. We seemed to only be able to do one transfer at a time, I think, which was quite concerning. I think we had a fledgling duo trying to get their head around transfers in terms of Newman and Moyes. I think once they got into their stride, they did really well. And I think throughout obviously it's not just the cherry on the cake, maybe the cake itself was Paqueta. It just seemed all through the window that David Moyes was desperate to bring in a marquee signing. That's the word I was looking for earlier. And eventually he got it. He wants to change the way we play. He wants to bring in players that help facilitate that. And I think by and large, he's done it. And I think it's really important, not just bringing the players in, that the last 3 results have really gone our way as well. Really chuffed. Great window, mate. Great window. Not in my lifetime, we've never spent this amount of money. So how can it be anything but? Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised when we got rumoured to having a £150 million budget at the start of the window. I laughed at it. I thought, no chance for 50 million. And tried to emphasize it quite a lot in the transfer rumor shows, because I was almost scared of fans getting their hopes up that we're going to spend 150 million, and I don't like it. I don't like people being disappointed and stuff. And I felt like I was being realistic, trying to calm things down a little bit. But lo and behold, we've gone above and beyond the 150 million. Hugely impressed by the ambitions shown by us in the window. I think when you look at the spine of our team on paper that could start the game against Chelsea, we could have a German centre-back there, the most used player under Flick, minutes and appearances. So we've got a proper German centre-back in the team. We've got England's defensive midfielder. We've got Brazil's centre/attacker midfielder in the team, and Italy's number 9 up front as well. Now, that doesn't necessarily equate to good players, of course, but that is, on paper, a prestigious spine to have in your team, and one that doesn't come cheap. When you look at the valuations of them, not just what we paid, but you've got to take into consideration the value of Declan Rice here as well. You're looking at easily 200 million plus worth of talent, and that's just 4 players in the team. It's a very expensively assembled squad. I do think there's an element of pressure on David Moyes now, because while we speak about how he's got a yield of return, I'd suggest he's, to some extent, he's almost under a little bit of pressure to play some good football. I think Nicky made a really good point, which is he skipped 3 transfer windows to get a striker. He's got one now. He's almost got to justify skipping 3 transfer windows, because in that time, we missed out on top 4 football, and we missed out on Europa League, winning the Europa League as well. Now, would a striker have helped us achieve any of them? We don't know. We'll never prove it. It'll always be opinions and hypotheticals. But I think it would have helped. I think it could have certainly helped. So to do that, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's what he's done now. We now need to see the results of that. And I think Moyes probably needs Scamacca to be a success. But on paper, plenty of talent brought in. Really happy with the transfer window. Like I said, wouldn't have minded a centre midfielder, but I think I'm getting a little bit nitpicking there because we've spent 180 million. The good thing is, even looking ahead till next summer now, we probably only need to, if everything goes right, we probably only need 2 or 3 major signings. Next summer, we're not doing this whole overhaul thing that we've done this time around. We can focus on a right back and a replacement for Declan Rice or whatever it is that we need next summer. We only need 2 or 3. We can take our time a little bit with them transfers, spend big in each position as well. We've put in, Moyes speaks about the foundations. Well, I think we've built essentially the first floor of our house this summer. So now it's about sort of staying there and then looking forward to going one higher. But it's certainly a really good window, and I'm going to bed a happy hammer. And I'll be quite honest with you, bloody excited at what this team can do. The bench.
I want to go to bed too excited though, Gio. Can it be hard to get to sleep?
I struggle to sleep anyway, regardless of how excited I go to bed or not. I'm waiting to watch Terminal List on Amazon Prime. I'm nearly finished it. I feel like I'm coming to an end of it. It's coming to a conclusion now, so I'm waiting to watch that to switch off from the West Ham stuff and nod off to that anyway. But so we'll leave it there, my friends. Anything like either of you would like to add?
No, I think we've been speaking for quite some time.
We have 2 hours and 15 minutes. Well, before we head off, I just want to say a thank you, not only to you guys for tuning in, but thank you to Charlie as well. He does a lot of good work for us over at Hammers Chat. And I only thank him twice a year, and it's always deadline day. And in January and in the summer, he only gets his appraisal twice. So, Charlie, thank you for all your hard work and much appreciated.
You're welcome, Gio.
He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
He's going to be working through the night.
I genuinely am. You're like talking, I'm going to watch this. I'm like, I'm going to go watch that video that I'm editing. That's great. I can't wait.
I'm working on a new store. I'm working on a new Luke Hammer store at the minute. That's why I can't access it. I need Charlie to do graphics. I thought if I butter him up a little bit, he might get them done in the next few days.
How wrong you were, sir. How wrong you
Right. Anyway, I'm joking. Right. Thank you to you guys for tuning in. The people are going now. Windows shut. They're all off to bed. I don't blame you. But thank you to everybody who's tuned in. The amount of people watching us live throughout this evening is incredible. And you do sometimes get a little bit like, wow, I can't believe that this is happening. But so thank you very much. Anyway, Charlie, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
it. Good night.
Pleasure. Good night to you too.
Thank you, Callum. Last minute to name it. Right, we're going to leave it there. And myself and Gonzo will catch you tomorrow with our Chelsea preview. We'll see you in a bit.